across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, good morning to you. It's a shame we're just on radio for actually most of our audience, not all of you on YouTube watching us, because otherwise I would just grin like a Cheshire cat for the next 3 hours, while, of course, downing copious amounts of champagne. Ding dong, the witch is dead. I'm sorry, I am absolutely thrilled. I'm afraid I'm not going to be one of those really, really nice people who say, well, you know what, in the end, he did do the right thing and there were some achievements and he's an honourable man and he cared about public service. Guys, that's not what happened just now. In the last half an hour, Keir Starmer resigned, and he resigned because he was pushed, because a bunch of senior figures in his cabinet said, you've got to go, you've lost the support of your party. And it's not just because Andy Burnham won a by-election in Makerfield on Friday morning. It's because he's a really bad Prime Minister. He did a good job of being leader of the opposition. Yes, he did. A lot of people, it seems, are quite good at being leader of the opposition. But when it comes to actually, the governing thing, the getting stuff done as opposed to criticising what the other people have done thing, turns out he wasn't so good at that. Indeed, most of his issues, most of the things which have damned him from, let's face it, within days, within weeks of him becoming Prime Minister back in July 2024, or of his own making. They weren't events, dear boy, events. They weren't things outside his control, like, Ukraine war, Israel and Iran and all of that. There wasn't any of that. No, they were things he chose to do. Cutting the winter fuel allowance, damning everybody who wanted to have a public inquiry on the grooming gangs as jumping onto the far-right bandwagon, the two-tier policing after the Southport riots. All of those things. Supporting his Chancellor to raise national insurance on employers, a policy move that was not only a direct breach of the manifesto that he'd just been elected on, but also basically led to hundreds of thousands of job losses. This man brought it on himself. He was not a good Prime Minister, and the public knew it from word go. He lost the support of the people, he lost the support of the party, he lost the support of his MPs. He couldn't even get welfare reform through. He couldn't even get through a policy to cut £5 billion, not from welfare bill, from the increase in the welfare bill. That is how utterly incompetent and useless he is. And yet he also announced a whole raft of things which were not remotely in his manifesto, for which he had no mandate at all. Digital ID, anyone? Remember that? So I'm sorry, but it's goodbye and good riddance from me. And never forget that this man, who says this was the greatest honour of his life to lead our country, and how he will stay on for a few months until they can decide on a new leader because he wants an orderly transition. This man has been dragged kicking and screaming out of number 10. He spent the weekend at Chequers being absolutely furious with his family that he was being treated so outrageously and how he doesn't believe he's the problem. I'm telling you right now, he still thinks that he's been hard done by. But crucial, the most crucial thing to remember today is, while people are saying nice things about Keir Starmer, remember what he thinks about you. Remember that he thinks you're a bigot. Remember that he thinks you're an idiot, that he thinks you're xenophobic, that he thinks you're racist, because you love your flag, because you think we should have controlled borders, because you voted for Brexit. He spent 3 years before he became leader of the opposition trying to stop Brexit from happening, from undermining the biggest democratic vote for anything in this country. That alone that he was not fit for public office. I've said it before, I've said it throughout his premiership, and I'm saying it today. Goodbye. Good riddance. I'm afraid, Keir Starmer, you won't be missed by anyone. Well, that's what I think. I'd love to know what you think. As usual, I'm not sitting on the fence on this one. I'm just refusing to pretend and play along with the let's be nice because he's gone. Well, he ain't gone yet. We've got another 2 months of this man, and God knows what he's going to try and do in terms of an EU reset, failure to actually start spending on defence, and goodness knows what else. Oh, your social media ban for under 16s, more attempts to control us, treading less heavily on our lives, treading more lightly on our lives, Prime Minister. Yeah, I'd love to see that when it actually happens. And it looks likely, pretty much almost set, that we are going to see the next Prime Minister in office in September as Andy Burnham. I'd love to know what you make of all of it. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Get in touch on X at Talk TV. Of course, calls are charged the national rate and text cost one standard network rate message. Delighted to say today, someone who is usually watching these things much closer by, Claire Pearsall, former Conservative Government Advisor. Look, we're not saying you lot did a good job, but I mean, well, you're nicer than me. You're probably willing to say nice things about him today, aren't you?
No, because he's awful. And I think that was probably the most dull speech I think I've heard in some time, which from him is quite an achievement because he's not the greatest speaker. But he's been doomed since day one. He really has. Yeah, I do. He didn't make any decisions particularly quickly. He walked into Downing Street and just went, what do we do now? Yeah. When it should have been the other way round.
Which is fascinating.
And also
4 years to prepare.
Yeah, 4 years to prepare. You did nothing. And now he you know, all of the gifts and everything, the Lord Alley glasses that were paid
for, gig here.
All of that stuff. From that point onwards, it's just been downhill. And we've all had to listen to how awful we are. Yeah. When he's just sat there in number 10 making decisions that are absolutely atrocious.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, again, he brought this on himself. This isn't stuff that happens. It's not. It's not been a coup that's been mounted, no. And, you know, and he's done a brilliant job. I tell you what's been fascinating is the excitement that many of the mainstream broadcasters have felt about him becoming Prime Minister. Yeah. Echoed yet again on Friday and Saturday and Sunday by the mainstream broadcast. I mean, genuinely sort of shivering and quivering with excitement at the prospect of getting Andy Burnham in. I mean, again, I think I'm sorry. I think the whole thing's hilarious because they're all completely deluded. And I did a couple of podcasts on Friday, not on air on Friday, which is actually quite frustrating. But I know Alex would have loved being on that show with the Makering result. Is that everyone's so massively over-interpreting this result. Oh, well, it shows he can take on reform. I mean, in a Leave voting seat. If I'd lived in Wakefield, I'd have probably voted for Andy Burnham just to get Keir Starmer out and get it over and done with. The thing is, no matter how bad Andy Burnham is, and I fear he could well be worse than Keir Starmer when it comes to policies, it won't be Keir Starmer. And we won't. When I play a clip, I won't have to go, 3, 2, 1, back in the room, wake up everybody afterwards. Let's play it just because it's nice to hear, just so we can all cheer. Listen, if you're not at work today, if you've done one of those, OK, you're working from home today, you've got the fan on, you're in the garden or whatever, the weather's going to be horrifically hot. Try not to die today, usual rules. I'm sure the BBC's been warning you that you're probably going to die this week because of the heat. If you can make it through, I'd like to point out, wherever you are, it's not as hot as this studio where the aircon has most definitely broken over the weekend, but there we are. Could you, I would really appreciate it, could you raise a little glass of fizz, please? I can't do it, I'm on air. Could you raise a glass of fizz? Could you tweet me a picture? Could you tweet it to @JuliaHB1? Could you tweet it to, or post it, whatever we're doing on X these days, @Talk TV, so I can just celebrate with you because I can't do it yet. But let's while we're listening to this, just crack open the first bottle, folks. Let's have a little watch and listen to the crucial words that we were waiting for to hear from the Prime Minister this morning.
The question my party is asking now is whether I am best placed to lead us into the next general election. I have heard the answer of my parliamentary party to that question, and I accept that answer with good grace. Every decision I've taken has been about putting the country I love first. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party.
I'm just going to get that on a loop. Just going to get it on a loop so I can enjoy it. It is extraordinary, and it's fascinating to hear a lot of people saying over the weekend, what is it about Keir Starmer that people hate so much? Because he's so he's so bland. He's just blancmange in a donated suit, isn't he?
Yeah.
So why do we hate him so much?
I think he's one of those people you can't classify him. He's beige the entire way through. You don't really like him. He's one of those people, if you met him in the pub, you'd have two words and then you'd go to the far corner and tell all your mates to stay away, because he's just going to bore you to tears.
Yeah.
I think it's that whole persona. He comes out, I'm better than you, I know better, I can make your world better, and you just think, on what planet?
I mean, this is the crucial thing, isn't it? Because, as I say, he hasn't been pushed out. If you look at, you look at things that he's done. I mean, look, he did, he achieved, let's go to it. Oh, they stuck to the fiscal rules. The workers' rights thing, which actually not going to help workers because they won't have a job because no one's going to risk employing anybody. Planning reforms, all in favour of that. That's actually a good thing, I'll give them that. GB Energy doesn't produce any energy, so I'm just sort of not quite sure
What's the point?
What did everyone... Oh, we're going to have GB... I think a lot of people thought that GB Energy was going to be like a nationalised oil and gas company that would provide cheap fuel. Yeah. I mean, I think there were quite a few people to think that. It's literally just more civil servants. 10-year plan for the NHS, extraordinary. Under your lot, the Tories, we didn't get any NHS plan. Well, that was a job for government. No, that was a job for the NHS. I mean, seriously, everyone should have been taken out and shot for that. They did have a fall in the NHS waiting list, but I mean, they took a load of people off the rolls.
Exactly.
And frankly, I mean, taking a couple of 100,000 people off a 7.7 million waiting list, so I don't think you get to crack open the champagne for that. Scrap the Rwanda deal, created the Border Security Command. How's that worked out? Yes, we have had fewer people coming over, but that's down to the weather more than anything else. I mean, it really is. He keeps claiming that they've cut immigration levels. Again, that is the net immigration. We've still got huge hundreds and hundreds of thousands coming. But that is almost entirely down to Rishi Sunak's policies that were enacted after the Boris wave.
Yes.
You know, where millions of people came over. Free breakfast clubs in all primary schools. I don't know why people who go out to work, if they need someone else who pays their tax to pay for their kids' breakfast. VAT on private school fees. They reckon that was going to, all that money was going to go into education for kids in state schools. I don't, in principle, have a problem with that, apart from the fact that a load of kids, it turns out, parents were just scraping by, and when the fees went up, they moved their kids to state schools. Now the state schools are having a bigger cost, so, I mean, you haven't saved any money, really. House of Lords reform, they removed the remaining hereditary peers. I mean, I'm largely in favour of that. If they deserve to be there, they should, I'm not a fan of the House of Lords anyway. But if you think about most of the policies that we've been focusing on that have been a problem, they weren't in the manifesto. So when they talk about, anti-Burnham, will you have to stick to the manifesto? Will there be an election? That NICS rise for employers, national insurance rise, literally the opposite. There will not be any tax rises for working people. The people who run businesses are working people who employ working people, and you put a tax on them. You literally put a tax on jobs. The winter fuel payment cut, which they had to backtrack on. I mean, scrapping the two-child benefit cap, again. I mean, no, that wasn't actually a plan in the manifesto, and that they actually withdrew the whip from some Labour MPs who initially voted for it. And again, an insane policy. The Chagos deal, that wasn't one of ours. Digital ID scheme, again, not there. Social media ban for under 16, popular, but for the wrong reasons. There was the family farm tax, also backing effectively by giving parliamentary time to the assisted dying bill. And I'm in favour of assisted dying, and that was a terrible bill. I mean, there were so many failures, just non-stop failures. The reality is, though, will a Burnham government be any better?
I think it's unlikely, because if he is successful and gets into number 10, he's going to encounter exactly the same problems as Keir Starmer has. You've got a party that is emboldened because they had a leader that made no decisions, and equally as divided as the Conservatives ever were, and there's still no money. Now, one of the main manifesto commitments was to not raise the three major taxes on individuals. Why do that? Why? It was always a very stupid thing to do.
Because he wouldn't have got elected otherwise.
Exactly, but where are you going to raise your revenue from? So he's going to come up against the same level of problem. There is still no cash.
Yeah. That's the thing. There is no money. We still have the issues, and we've still coming through the pipeline.
Yeah.
It won't come through yet, which is what's been going on in Iran, and the Strait of Hormuz being closed. It's closed again. I mean, it's open. It's open if you've got a boat from China or India, then you're able to get it through. Otherwise not. But also, as you say, crucially, the same backbenchers. You know, there were 403 Labour MPs elected in July 2024. A few of those have been taken off the rolls for various misdeeds over the period. But you still got a massive majority. I mean, right now, Keir Starmer has resigned as Labour leader, not as Prime Minister.
Yes.
He is still our Prime Minister. He has still got a stonky great majority. You can get any Prime Minister with authority could have got anything through. If they had the authority. He couldn't even get through that tiny cut to welfare, to the welfare increase. I mean, this is the mind-blowing thing. I mean, the biggest. Let's go through the biggest issues that are, on the plate of any prime. Spending on defence. We are in a dangerous period. The Prime Minister himself told NATO, was it 3 weeks ago now, that we could face a direct threat from Russia by 2030. No plans to actually increase our money. We've actually had a £3.5 billion cut in defence spending this year. So all that biggest increase in defence spending in years. No, I'm sorry. Don't believe this nonsense. Net zero, energy prices, all tied into that. Again, while you still get Ed Miliband anywhere near government, that's insane. But again, Keir Starmer's responsible for that policy. He appoints the guy. He approves the policy. That's entirely a Keir Starmer thing, fundamentally. And welfare, won't cut welfare. I mean, the argument about Andy Burnham is that he's more personable, he's more popular. He will therefore have more authority from voters for the backbenchers. But he can get stuff done. But is there any reason to believe that Andy Burnham will want to get those things done?
He will want, inevitably, to have his own agenda. So at the moment, it looks like he'll be stuck with whatever the Labour manifesto was and all of those decisions that were taken before he became an MP again. So are we looking down the lens of a snap general election because he wants to put his own priorities through? I mean, you look at... I think that would be the worst of all worlds. I'm going to put my cards on the table. We don't need another general election. Trust me.
But also, constitutionally, we don't. That said, every time the Tories changed Prime Minister, and bearing in mind that Labour have been... When Burnham or whoever gets in, it's going to be Burnham, realistically, but never say never, in September, we are in the situation where we're on our 7th Prime Minister in 10 years, which is Italian territory, except in Italy, Berlusconi would have been every other one. They do it differently in Italy.
Yeah, they do. But, I mean, just what is he going to do? I mean, just looking at the uplift in defence spending from Keir Starmer, I mean, we all know that is utter rubbish. He lost a defence secretary and a minister because of it. He has to go over to the NATO conference at the beginning of July. And what's he going to tell them? Oh, well, I'm on my way out, but I have promised you some money, so, yeah, we're going to do it. And you just sort of think, well, how is this going to go down?
That's the concern, that the Prime Minister wants to stay on. I mean, admittedly, unless it was just instant the next day, there's a process, and he says he's opened up this process. We're going to see nominations in the Labour Party for another Labour leader on the 9th of July. He's not. He would be automatically on the ballot if he wanted to be. He wouldn't need the 81 MPs. Anyone with 81 MPs supporting them who wants to stand will be on those nominations. They will close a week later, before Parliament ends, and there will be a contest if there's more than one candidate that will go to the Labour Party membership and affiliates. Labour Party membership is not going to vote for Wes Streeting. Labour Party membership is not going to vote for Darren Jones or any of these other hopefuls who think they can take on Andy Burnham. They're going to vote for Andy Burnham. So what's the point? You're just going to humiliate yourself. Word is that Wes Streeting is the Health Secretary. Is in. I saw him on Thursday, and he was absolutely adamant that he had the 81 votes. May have, but that was before the Makerfield by-election result and the 55% vote for Andy Burnham, which is being, again, I think, massively overinterpreted as his ability to take on, Leave voters and reform, etc., etc. But realistically, I would have thought there's more likely to be a deal done. He gets a job. The question is who Andy Burnham puts in various jobs is going to be a giveaway of what kind of Prime Minister he's going to be. A lot of talk that Ed Miliband was his possible Chancellor, and that was coming from sources within the Andy Burnham camp. I mean, genuinely terrifying. The markets would go ballistic at that moment. I don't even think that is tenable, and that would. I mean, Ed Miliband is so unpopular in the country because people have woken up to the madness of net zero. And bearing in mind, he was rejected in 2015. He was this. Can I just say, it's almost like I have tried to block this out. It's like you had a bad relationship, just pretend it never happened. Ed Miliband was leader of the Labour Party for quite a few years. You remember the bacon sandwich? And the Ed Stone? I mean, that's literally all we remember him for, those two things. Oh, yeah, he's got 2 kitchens. It's got two
He's got
kitchens.
very nice kitchens, has to be said.
Well, one of them, the one he had the reporter in was just a bit rubbish. Then someone else
the other
himself, I thought they'd defend him. Go, no, he's got another really lovely kitchen. Oh, he has two kitchens, one for the nanny, because he's a man of the people. Of course he is. I would love to have two kitchens. Why would you? I don't get why do you need two kitchens? What's that about?
How much cooking do you do?
What's that? I mean, how
it's more cleaning.
How much jam and tins of baked beans do you need, people? But there we are. But no, but that's all we know about him. And he crashed and burned badly for a reason, because he's just not up to the job. So I mean, but then even Late Louise Haigh, she apparently, the former Transport Secretary, sacked because she had lied about basically the fact that she used to work at a job, and basically they were pretty sure that when she claimed her phone had been stolen, it hadn't been stolen, and she was just defrauding the company to keep her phone, right? She had to resign from that. And apparently, Andy Burnham thinks she should be in his cabinet.
But
that's the quality of person he hangs out with.
But have you seen that she's had a real sort of
big makeover? Oh, yeah.
Or a make-under. I'm not sure how we put it.
Is it just me? I'm not sure bright pink hair, as she used to have, it makes you look like you should be running the country.
No, it makes you look as if you should be at some kind of concert somewhere. And that's
just
it.
Mind-blowing.
Running student politics, maybe.
Exactly. Look, there's so much to talk about in terms of Keir Starmer's legacy, how much he hates us, and what you think an Andy Burnham government would look like. Are you looking forward to it? Do you want a general election? Nigel Farage has already called for a general election. The Tories are umming and ahhing. Let's face it, they're behind in the polls. I personally don't think there's a chance for a general election. I don't think any Burnham bounce is going to be big enough and long enough to have a general election. And I'm not sure many of those Labour MPs who're looking at that, where the polls are right now, are going to be willing to risk their £99,000 salaries a year for the next couple of years to give Andy Burnham that extra bounce and that mandate that he would clearly want. But I don't even think he's brave enough either. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of it. 0344 499 1000 is the number to get in touch. Can't wait to get your calls. Funnily enough, already quite a lot on the board. Oh, I know, I'm as surprised as you are. And please don't forget, send me your photos of you sipping champagne. I know it's early. I feel today does justify it, though. Little glass of fizz. Send me the photo. Send it to at Talk TV and to at Julia HP1. I can't wait to see them. This is Talk.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very, very good morning. Welcome back to the show. It's a wonderful, happy day. Happy for that from now on. From now on, the 22nd of June will be Happy Keir Starmer Resignation Day. 10:26 is the time. Let's get straight to your calls. 0344 499 1000. Find out what you say. Vincent is in Newcastle. Hello, Vincent. What do you want to tell us?
Hello, Empress. What a day to celebrate. You know, I'm broken my own rule and I've got a small whiskey in my hand.
Oh, I tell you what, that's going hard, going early.
It is. But on a serious note, this man is a monster, and I don't say that lightly.
Wow, that's quite a word.
Within the first week, cancelled the free speech university bill.
Yeah.
The man who systematically tried to deny Brexit, not, made the argument saying we should go back in, not went through democratic methods, actively tried to thwart the vote with everything that he got.
He's not a Democrat.
No, not fundamentally not Democrat. Insulted his own people repeatedly by calling them far right. Broke his own rules over the weekend by what he said. I obviously won't go into details. It's an active case. But his tweets over the weekend broke what he said in the past about how we should wait to get more information.
Yeah, no, total truth here. And again, if you hadn't resigned already, I would have been discussing that in the last half hour. Basically, when we saw this, the Home Secretary, the Prime Minister, senior people throughout being very, very critical of an incident in Edinburgh involving what appeared to be racist attacks, horrific violence. A man has been arrested, so we need to be very careful. But being very clear about the motive and calling it out and blaming people for stirring up the sort of racial hate that could lead to such a crime. Now, I'm sorry, and when the right say the same things about...
We're told we've got to wait how we feel. We're told not look back in anger.
Don't politically exploit it.
For more information.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, absolute. They're two-tier every day of the week. They really are.
Absolutely. And look, I agree with you. I think Burnham is an empty suit that will walk into anywhere that will wear him. However, it can't be any worse than Starmer. And tomorrow is 10 years of, the most fundamental democratic decision this population made. I'm going to put up a picture on the screen tomorrow of you in your Union Jack dress, because that always makes me smile. And I'm going to drink my whiskey now. Bit shaming at 10:30 on a Monday morning, but you know what? The monster is gone. And just as my last note, thank you for you not being like all the other presenters on all the other useless stations and saying you're delighted. There's no fake sympathy for this awful man who has run our country into the ground.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much, Vincent. I'm loving it. Just want to say, actually, tomorrow, to mark Brexit Day, Nigel Farage will be live on there 10 o'clock sharp to mark the anniversary of Brexit. And that, I mean, it's just, well, that was the day we voted. I've got to be honest with you. It's the 24th of June for me was the morning I woke up to the absolute joy. I did manage to get a couple of hours, Kip, having gone to bed absolutely convinced that we'd lost. Actually, after having had a conversation with Nigel Farage, who at that time had said he thought we'd lose. But anyway, I can't wait to get Nigel Farage on tomorrow. He, interestingly, has been calling for a general election since the resignation of Keir Starmer. I wonder if we're going to get one. Let's go to Matthew. He's in Warrington. Good morning to you, Matthew.
Good morning. I'm doing a little jig by my van in the car park. Little Irish jig. I've got no whiskey, but that'll be later.
Can I just say, I hope your van's not white, and I hope you haven't got an England flag on it, because you know what that makes you, Matthew?
It's white, and it's got a soldier on the back with his head bowed for all our soldiers. And I have my Welsh Guards badge on the back, and I have my RAF Cadets badge, and I'm very proud to be British.
Very, very, all credit to you, sir, absolutely. So what are your feelings today, then, other than the jig?
I said to you in May that on May the 12th, that day after my birthday, we'd be eating birthday cake because it'd be gone. So I got a little bit wrong.
You did? I remember.
I did. Yeah, you see, so he has gone. I do think Burnham is a wolf in sheep's clothing. I do worry for what we're going to get. I do worry for the next 2 months, because I think Starmer is still going to push his legacy through no matter what. But he had to go. Everything he said in that speech, he went, that's why you're gone, mate. That's why you're gone, mate. That's why you're gone. You don't achieve it. You've gone because you didn't do that.
Yeah,
He's
absolutely.
so deluded. I pay a lot of money to get in this condition on a Saturday night, because he's not on it, is he? He can't. Everything he said there, he failed in, and he's convinced himself. We do around and convinced him that he's done the right thing. He's doing the right thing. He wouldn't be resigning, would you? Because if you are saviour.
Exactly. And again, a lot of people are saying, oh, well, Prime Ministers of any hue, they can't last because you just simply can't get, because, public are too demanding, we're too impatient, there was some talk the other day about how, Britain has become ungovernable. No, we just want accountable governments that do what we told them to do. And when they do stuff we haven't asked them to do, and they said especially they won't do, we punish them. That's what happens. And that is called democracy. And unless or until we get a Prime Minister and a government in office that does what the country actually wants it to do, and also the stuff that needs to be done and turns this country around, we're going to keep throwing people out.
Absolutely.
You enjoy your jig. Vincent's enjoying his whiskey. Claire Bissell, I mean, you genuinely big smiles. I mean, a lot of people are going to feel that way today.
They are. I mean, I do think we need to look at what comes next, potentially, you know, other candidates notwithstanding. But what are we going to get with Burnham? So at the moment, we're very happy. He's at peak popularity. By the 9th of July, that may be slightly different.
How will that go? Well, up next, we're going to take a quick break. Then we're going to talk to your favourite and mine, former Labour Party spokesman, very much not anymore, James Mathewson will be here. I wonder if he's as pleased as us, but for different reasons. We'll talk about that up next. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very, very good morning. Welcome back to the show. This is Talk, the home of common sense. 10:33 is the time. Let's talk to someone. I wonder if his perspective is different from mine and Claire's, and indeed many of you, when it comes to the resignation of Keir Starmer. James Mathewson is a former Labour Party spokesman, very much not in the Labour Party anymore, and a political commentator. Good morning to you, James.
Good morning, Julia.
Oh, you sound quite chirpy too. Are you quite pleased by the news?
I am, yes. I'm thrilled. I think it's best for everyone. I think finally, in these past few days, everyone's kind of needs have been met and everyone has been aligned in their thinking. Finally, because the last piece of the puzzle in this country, in the whole country, was Keir Starmer himself. And I think finally Victoria Starmer managed to get through to him and say, look, there's nothing ahead for us. There's nothing further down the road.
Very interesting. That sounded ever so like the sort of thing one might say in a breakup. It's not me, it's you. It is fascinating that the Prime Minister, by all accounts, spent the weekend at Chequers, which is where we find Prime Ministers tend to go when they want to get away from it all on a lovely sunny weekend with their wives and husbands and family to talk about what they should do. And that, by all accounts, she's his rock, all that. We always hear that, and he got tearful at the end. We'll play that clip again in a few moments, actually. But that actually she was the one who was urging him to fight on, and then she's the one who's basically gone, OK, I think the end of the road has been hit. Do you think there is anything good to say about his premiership?
So controversial opinion from me, no, not about his premiership, but about him as a person. I would say, look, he's committed, he's dedicated. You can think it's in every wrong direction imaginable, but the man ploughs ahead. I think he's a good civil servant. I think he's exactly what you want in a civil servant, but I don't think he has been a prime minister. I think he's been a head of state. I think that's what he wanted to be. I think he wanted to be a dignitary. I think he wanted to be a diplomat. I think he wanted to go around the world and speak to people, and I think he's good at it.
They all love that. They all love that.
Yeah,
all prime ministers end up loving that. And one of the things, and I'm going to talk to Tony Blair about that once, actually, is that it's just the thing that on the world stage, even when it comes to military and things like that, you pull the, Keir Starmer's talked about this, you pull the lever and nothing happens. You pull the lever and stuff happens, and it happens really quickly. But when you do it in domestic policy, turning around the NHS, schools, planning reform, anything, I mean, everything just takes ages. And there is an argument for things taking a while. So people, rushed policy and rushed legislation tends not to be very good legislation. They don't see all the problems with it. But he tried to rush into a lot of things, and pretty much everything he tried to rush into, that winter fuel allowance announcement by Rachel Reeves. And bearing in mind, anything announced by Rachel Reeves has been approved by the Prime Minister, who is the First Lord of the Treasury. That's literally his job title. So things like that. Lots of stuff that was just announced sort of off the cuff almost. No prep, not in the manifesto. That was the stuff that actually undid him and hit his popularity, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's that stuff that requires you to be political, right?
Yeah.
That's politics. I know we've talked a lot about how a lot of people say, or did say in recent years, they would love to see non-politicians become politicians. This should really be the lesson we learn from this, is that it's actually a skill set, right? We might not like to admit it. It's a specific skill set. There are requirements to the role, and you need to be good at it. And having political instincts is key to that, right? Knowing that something isn't going to play well, knowing that it's going to cause problems politically as well as economically. So, all of those things, take on like the farmers' issues, right?
Yeah.
The issues of the farmers. You don't wage war with the farmers if you're also going to wage war with the private schools, because that's a similar crossover, right? There's a Venn diagram of people there, you're going to piss them all off, right?
Yeah.
So the problem is when you do that, you end up losing on all fronts. And because of that lack of political instinct, he's ended up tying himself up in knots. If I were him, the person who I would be holding responsible for all of this would be Morgan McSweeney. Because right back in those days where he sat in Keir Starmer's kitchen and convinced him he should be the next Prime Minister, he should be the candidate to take forward the post-Corbyn era in the Labour Party, that was a mistake. And unfortunately, it's a mistake they made together.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. At Westminster event I was at on Wednesday night, they were reunited. I didn't see whether they spoke together. I'm sure they did, but I certainly saw Morgan McSweeney there and the Prime Minister. And I have to say, it was very noticeable. Been at this event a number of times, and a couple of years ago when he was, going to be the next Prime Minister, almost certainly, you could feel the sort of the aura and people sort of flocking to him. And then he was Prime Minister, and therefore you get a certain level of respect. But he was already things weren't going very well, and last week you could just completely feel that people would have sort of, look, mate, we know you're not going to be here for long. We're looking at their watches.
Today, seeing him standing there, really, when he walked away, because I always think the walk away from the podium is the interest of it, right?
Yes.
David Cameron almost skipping and whistling,
Yes.
But Starmer looked diminished. He really did look diminished, even for himself, He carried himself with, a slump. He was really, you could see a man who was defeated.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he was defeated.
And he got tearful. This has become a regular thing, isn't it? Them getting tearful. We saw that with Theresa May. Let's play a little clip, actually. We've got a second clip of the Prime Minister. This is just the very, very end of his speech when he's talking about his family.
And when I leave the biggest job in the country, I shall spend more time on the most important job, being the best husband I can to my fantastic wife Vic, who has been a rock by my side through good times and bad, and being the best dad I can to my beautiful children, who are my pride and my joy.
Well, I know I'm supposed to have sympathy at this point, but I found it all a bit meh. But there we are. I mean, this is the thing. He does talk about his family quite a lot, and obviously, you've got that support. And let's face it, when the proverbial is hitting the fan and everyone's against you, you need those people by you. A lot of talk that actually once Morgan McSweeney had gone, or once he'd lost a load of staff, that actually, she was kind of the last woman standing, looking after him.
Yeah, and look, would you not want to look for kindness right now if you were that person, right? You've been through the,
Ain't getting it here.
battles. You don't, he's not getting it from you, Julia. Let's be honest. You're not meeting Keir Starmer's needs, are you, emotionally? So, no,
don't want to meet any of his needs, thanks ever so.
He needs those people around him who will. And of course, it's actually, I think sometimes with jobs in general, right? Let's take the prime ministerial and the political aspect out of it. With jobs in general, when you give your all, when you're locked into it for a while, sometimes you can lose perspective on what's important. And that sounded to me like a man who, after spending Father's Day, with his family at Chequers, has probably thought, that there is more to life as well. And hopefully, I wish him well in that endeavour. I mean, even Donald Trump seems to be wishing him well in that endeavour. He'll go away from public sight, and if he has any respect for himself I hope to God he doesn't do the Tony Blair and we don't get a policy paper from him every other month as well.
Yes, there is that. Go and find someone else. Something I want to pick up on, actually, you said a bit earlier about, you need people who've got that political instinct, but also the political ability to know how to get things done. Isn't one of the problems in our country that no Prime Minister can get anything done because the civil service are a law unto themselves? And whether you agree or disagree with the policy is, frankly, if you're a civil servant, none of your damn business. And unless it's illegal, unless they're saying, go and kill all people with blue hair or something, I mean, then you need to do the job. And actually, when you talk about people often talk about getting business people in or military people in. The difference there is, military, you have to do as you're told or you're court-martialed. If you're in business, you don't do, the boss of Tesco tells you to do something and you don't do it, you get sacked. And the trouble is, we have prime ministers who are ostensibly in office but don't actually have any power to get anything done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with what I would call as a conspiracy theory of like the deep state and this idea that the blob, as people like Farage call it, that there's this kind of type of civil servant who are liberal and Marxist and whatever, who stopping things doing. That was never my experience, especially under the Jeremy Corbyn years when they were engaging with civil service. It was quite the opposite, actually. So I think the civil service does a fairly good job of being neutral where it can be. But look,
there's no evidence for that.
This is why you have to have the skill set you have to have as a prime minister. It's all right, people like Zia Youssef and Richard Tice will always tell you, get a strong business person in. They don't understand the frustrations of working with the public sector.
But that's the whole point. There shouldn't be any frustration.
It has to be like that.
Do your job.
Like that.
Civil servants should be sacked on the spot if they don't do their job. Right, instead of doing a complaint about Priti Patel because she looked them the wrong way.
Are we for real? Look at the Mandelson situation. We should learn from that. Sometimes the pushback from the civil service is all that is protecting us from the will of politicians.
There was barely any pushback.
So, no, but sometimes...
The head of the civil service was happily allowing people to party during lockdown and is still taken seriously as a reasonable human being who, frankly, should be in bloody prison for that.
No, there should be more accountability. The problem is we have that elected aspect and we have that unelected aspect. They're always going to clash. They're always going to butt heads.
No, James, that's a complete misunderstanding of our system. They shouldn't clash because the civil service do what they are told.
I work with it, Julia. It's not a misunderstanding of it. I understand how these things work, and you can't just beat these people into submission because of checks and balances.
You shouldn't have to beat them into submission. If someone's been elected on a manifesto and they are doing that job, it is their job to do it. Nothing to discuss. If they don't like it, they can go somewhere else or join a political party.
But it's not about manifestos. Look how much Keir Starmer tried to do that.
Yeah, exactly. How'd that work out for him?
Right? And what are the checks and balances on that?
Okay.
The civil service are basically
Changing that, we're not going to agree on this. I'm right, you're wrong. But let's just one other thing. Andy Burnham, do you think, Reform are calling, we're talking to Richard Tice in about 15 minutes. Reform. Well, we talk to people from different parties.
Yeah.
How weird is that, James? Really?
Very weird,
Nigel Farage has called for there to be a general election. I don't think they really want one yet, personally. But I don't think they're ready. Tories certainly aren't ready. They're not pushing that line. Do you think that Andy Burnham will get a big bounce if he does become Prime Minister and that he will call a general election? Or do you think, again, as I've been saying for a long time, Andy Burnham, really likeable guy, definitely has charisma, has been a successful mayor of Manchester, but at the end of the day, he's just Keir Starmer in a black T-shirt.
No, I don't think he is Keir Starmer in a black T-shirt because the thing is Andy Burnham changes. He's a shapeshifter, right? And that's actually a really good thing sometimes because he's able to see what's just gone wrong for the past 2 years and he will not be repeating, at least I think he won't be, repeating any of the mistakes that have happened previously, right? So he's not going to allow Labour to look valueless and visionless. He's wanting to get that vision right, which is why I bet he's very happy with the timeline set out today because he gets to get his ducks a bit more in a row than they are right now.
Well, but you say a bit more in a row. Word is, and as far as we can tell, he doesn't have any policies. He doesn't have a vision. He doesn't have a philosophy. He doesn't have a plan.
He has a philosophy, and he's working with people like Neil Lawson and Compass. He's working with people like Neil Lawson and Compass. I would say the biggest kind of thing we will see from Burnham will be constitutional reform. And that will be, by the way, it's going to cause havoc. But we will see...
What sort of constitutional reform?
That I think we'll see him wanting to shift towards a system of PR.
I mean, you simply cannot do... No. There's no way in the world they can do that without a manifesto commitment to it.
No, well, this is why I think you're likely to see him try and put all this together into some coherent policy offer and then try and take it to the country for a general election.
Are you
There'll be people
serious?
around him.
With all the things going on in this country, the defence threat, the welfare ballooning budget, the energy crisis, net zero, with all of this, the law and order issue, with all immigration, with all of this going on right now, you think he can be a popular Prime Minister who can win a general election based on, I'm going to deliver constitutional reform? The public will laugh him out of office within months.
No, I don't think that's the fundamental thing. I think that will be at the core of all of it. Wow. I think he recognises that the political system has to change. It's not fit for purpose. Surely we all acknowledge that. You know, the old two-party system is not reflective of
government with a
way,
mandate. A government with a mandate first past the post. How's it working for all the countries in Europe that got PR? How's it working out for them? It takes 3 months to put a government together in Germany.
Yeah, you see more coalition, more democratic-focused governments.
More coalition, so people don't get what they voted for.
I would have thought you'd be in favour of that, Julia, because it's more democratic.
It's not more democratic. It's a different form of democracy. It's not more democratic.
Because on Talk TV, you have a variety of views, and from your viewers and callers a lot of the time, some of them quite extreme, in my opinion. You'll see them better represented in a system of PR. So regardless of that, what I would say is with Burnham, you're going to see a shift. There will have to be a shift, because he knows that he can't keep more of the same. And go for a general election.
Okay, I love it. Can I just say though, as someone, I don't think it's a mystery to say, revelation. I didn't vote for Keir Starmer's Labour Party in 2020. I know you're shocked, aren't you? I doubt you did either. But in no way was I not represented by not getting a government of my choice into office. I didn't have a government of choice at that election, to be fair.
Listen.
But no, that's not being unrepresented. Losing an election doesn't mean you're not represented. It means you lost the election.
When you speak to your pal, Nigel Farage, tomorrow, will you ask him from me what he's doing with that £5 million?
I will.
We need to know.
I will. No, don't worry, I will. James Matthews, great to have you on. Thank you very much indeed. Claire Pissell, just a quick run through of where you think we are. I mean, certainly in Burnham.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. If constitutional reform is at the top of your hit list the minute you step into Downing Street, then there's something seriously wrong with you.
I don't think that will be the case. I don't. No. 10:48 is time. We're going to take a quick break. Then we're going to be talking about what we're looking at in terms of a Burnham premiership. Could Ed Miliband be Chancellor? How will the bond markets react? Who else is up for that top job? That's going to be the #1 job. Independent economist Julian Jessup will give us his take up next. Don't forget Richard Tice coming up after 11. This is Talk.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk, the home of common sense. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. It's a home of joy and happiness. Send me your photos of you sipping champers. We've already had a caller, Vincent, who's sipping his whiskey earlier. I mean, 10:25. All credit to him. But I'd love to see a pic. Send them to @Talk to TV and to Julia HP1 on X. Love to see them. Right now, let's talk about, well, whether we'll be celebrating for long at Keir Starmer going, or is what's going to come next even worse. Andy Burnham looks game, set and match to be the next Prime Minister. Whether there's a contest or not against Wes Streeting or anyone else, who knows. But he is going to win that election realistically. Apparently, in spending the next 2 months trying to come up with some policies, maybe naming his new cabinet. Well, let's try and think about, well, what that implications of that will be for our economy. So for you and me, our taxes, our lives. Julian Jessup is an independent economist. And good morning to you, Julian.
Good morning.
So, I mean, lots of talk, first of all, that Andy Burnham is thinking of appointing Ed Miliband as his Chancellor. Currently, the net zero or, no, it can't be Energy Security Secretary, hated largely across the country, complete climate change hysteric and zealot. A man who, if he was Chancellor, we should be sure would continue to fund the net zero policies which are breaking our economy. What would the markets do if that were the case?
Well, I think it's no secret that Ed Miliband would love to have the job. He used to be an advisor at the Treasury, and that's probably the highest role that he can now reasonably expect to have. But I think actually there are a couple of reasons why he won't get it. One is that he's no longer as important as he used to be in the party. It looks like Burnham's going to have more than 200 MPs supporting him.
Yeah.
So he doesn't need the support of Ed Miliband to get him over the line.
Yeah.
But the other point is actually a lot of people, including a lot of people on the left, agree with exactly what you've just said about how much he's messed up energy policy. So, over the weekend, we had the leaders of some of the biggest trade unions in this country, Unite in particular, saying that they don't want Ed Miliband to be Chancellor. So it's not just us that you might describe as on the right or people in the markets, but even people on the left think that Ed Miliband isn't the right person for the job. In fact,
and we could see, couldn't we? Because the SNP are fully on board with a lot of this madness as well. And we saw in that, we're not all paying attention to Makerfield, but the Aberdeen South, well, 3 by-elections taking place on last Thursday. But Aberdeen South, Tories won that hands down because they were saying, drill, baby, drill, basically.
In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if Ed Miliband loses the energy portfolio as well. I think there's already speculation he might be shuffled sideways to housing and local government, which obviously worries me because maybe he'll mess up housing just as much as he's messed up energy. But housing's already in such a mess, it's difficult to see how it could get a lot worse.
I would say one of the good things this government has done, and there aren't very many, it's a very, very short list, was planning reform. And let's start building things. There was a lot of talk, wasn't there, about building a load of nuclear power stations. I haven't seen any of those popping up anywhere around me, but there we are. In terms of other runners and riders, people are talking about Wes Streeting doing a deal to not run in a contest so that he could then be Chancellor, the ex-Health Secretary who resigned, basically hoping to push a leadership election already before Andy Burnham could win that by-election. Also, Pat McFadden, who has been very, very, very close ally of the current Prime Minister, but would be regarded perhaps as a safe pair of hands. Where do you think that job will go? Because that's going to be the number one appointment that really matters, isn't it?
Well, my guess is actually Wes Streeting, for the reason that you suggested. It's an obvious olive branch to him to persuade him not to run. I don't think he probably will run anyway because he wouldn't get the support. But that would be like, if you like, a unity cabinet. And I think the markets would be reasonably happy with that. Wes Streeting is seen as somebody relatively sensible.
Not going to frighten the horses.
Pat McFadden, I think, will be okay as well. He's been quite sensible in pushing back on loads of demands for tax increases to pay for more welfare. But this doesn't, of course, change any of the big picture. The public finances are in a mess. I think one of the defining features of a Burnham government is going to be more government spending, particularly on infrastructure. That money has to come from somewhere. I'm still not convinced it will come from cuts in welfare. So I think we are facing more tax increases. I think another person who's likely to return to the cabinet, of course, is John Healey, back to defence, in which case one of Wes Streeting's first jobs is to find more money to pay for.
And John Healey can't realistically return to the cabinet unless there is more money for defence. There's lots of talk about the Prime Minister in the next 2 weeks, 2 months, wanting to stay on. Again, you need an orderly transition. We're at a time of war. I completely accept that. But wanting to stay on so he can perhaps do a bit more of an EU realignment, do this sort of deal. He's got the big EU meeting coming up next month. Also, obviously, you never know we could win the World Cup. He'd like to be there to celebrate that. And of course, everyone would be happy. He'd think, oh, I didn't need to have gone if only I'd waited. I don't think either of those things are going to happen, sadly. But also perhaps to finally deliver that defence investment plan. But they can't do that without cutting something which backbenchers won't agree to, or without actually raising taxes or borrowing more, both of which are very hard to do.
Well, again, you're right. I think one of the things that worries me is that Prime Ministers on the way out like to leave some sort of legacy. So Theresa May left us with the disastrous legacy of net zero.
Yeah.
I think Keir Starmer might actually either go for defence or I think more likely some form of EU reset, setting us even further along the line of realigning with the European Union on even worse terms than we would otherwise have get. Because he's clearly a lame duck, so he's going to concede whatever the European Union asks for.
Well, no, they won't what the European Union asks for, because he would agree with that, because he's been on the EU side as he was between 2016 and 2019 as Shadow Brexit Secretary.
Oh, exactly. I'm actually a member of a new group called Britain Unbound that it's a cross-party group trying to campaign to maintain the sovereignty that we regained when we voted to leave in 2016.
I think I need to join this group. I think I do.
Yes, please do.
Well, the main
we are
thing...
seriously worried about this, that, Starmer may try and stitch Burnham up. Interestingly, Burnham in the Makerfield by-election campaign did recognise that most of the people in the region voted to leave and still wanted to remain outside. So the risk is that Keir Starmer sets us along that road, and Burnham finds it harder to roll back again.
And we know that he's a massive Europhile as well himself, and a rejoiner, someone who actually does want to. It is something that Wes Streeting equally both exposed. And the Labour Party is very clear about this. They stood on a manifesto in 2024 saying, they respected the result. They said that before 2016 vote, didn't they? They said it in 2017, but they didn't respect the vote, and they're going to try and take us in by crook or by crook, because they know perfectly well we ain't going to vote to go back in. I mean, bring on a referendum. I've got no issue with that, but it's not. We're not going to go back in. Just to get rid of these silly nonsense we keep hearing about how if only we were back in the EU, if we hadn't left, our economy would be in such a better state. Why is that just a complete load of nonsense?
Well, there are lots of ridiculous studies going around suggesting the economy is as much as 8% smaller than it would otherwise have been, but the fatal flaw in all of these studies is that they can't, strip out the impact of Brexit from everything else that is going on, including COVID and high energy prices.
Yes.
If you start from the bottom up, there's actually very little sign of a lasting impact on business investment or even on trade or the labour market. Overall, Brexit has largely been a non-event, but we are starting to see some of the benefits come through in loads of areas, lots of benefits from being outside both the customs union and the single market. It's just a shame they're not talked about more.
No, funny that, though. Julian Jessup, independent economist, thank you very much indeed. Claire Pearsall, you're former Conservative government advisor, but who is the chance is absolutely crucial. The idea is that, number 10, number 11 should work hand in glove. Who do you think Andy Burnham's looking at?
I think that Pat McFadden actually would be top of that list. Because
would the left of the party be happy with that, or does he not have to worry about that?
I don't think he has to worry about that now. I think
he's
he
the
can
crown
put
prince.
Absolutely, he can do what he wants.
That's very interesting. Yeah, he doesn't. But what I'd love to do is I would just love to know what his policies are going to be. It would be really nice. I mean, we didn't know much about what Keir Starmer was going to do, did we? I mean, his plan for change is all we had on the front of the manifesto, change. But we never really found out what it was really about. And most of the things he's done, certainly the ones that have been controversial, weren't in the manifesto. But I wonder what Andy Burnham's planning to do. Could you tell us? Richard Tice up next. This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very, very good morning to you. It's 2 minutes past 11 o'clock. This is Talk, the home of common sense. Whether you're listening on DAB Plus radio or your smart speaker, watching on YouTube or your connected device. If you are not currently on air and therefore not allowed to have a drink, please open champagne for me, because ding dong, the witch is dead. He's gone. He's resigned. We've got another 2 months of him. He's going to be even more of a lame duck prime minister than he's been, frankly, for the last 6 months, year, you could say. But Keir Starmer has resigned just because it's so nice to listen to. Let's have another little listen to Keir Starmer finally this morning at about 9:30 outside Downing Street, while really unhelpfully Steve Bray played very loud music in the background. He did the deed.
The question my party is asking now is whether I am best placed to lead us into the next general election. I have heard the answer of my parliamentary party to that question, and I accept that answer with good grace. Every decision I've taken has been about putting the country I love first. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party.
So that's Keir Starmer resigning as leader of the Labour Party, not yet as Prime Minister, until there is another contender ready to go. There are going to be nominations opening on the 9th of July for the next Labour leader. If there is no contest, no one else stands in, Wes Streeting most likely against Andy Burnham, then Andy Burnham will get a coronation, but he won't take over until September. Apparently, he needs time to come up with a plan and some policies and a cabinet. It's almost like he's just Keir Starmer Mark II, isn't he? Just Keir Starmer in a black T-shirt as opposed to some very fancy donated suits. Oh, by the way, with all due respect, Andy Burnham, could you put on a suit and tie when you go to Downing Street? We'd kind of expect that, if that's all right. I want to hear from you, because I'm absolutely thrilled. And as I said a bit earlier at 10 o'clock, I'm not going to go through the motions like everyone else does and says, oh, we've got such an honourable man, he was a great public servant, and talking about how he's doing the right thing. Keir Starmer has been dragged kicking and screaming out of Downing Street. He doesn't believe he should go. He feels he's been betrayed. He thinks you and I, he thinks most of the country are horrible, ghastly, ignorant bigots who voted for Brexit, don't know what they're doing, probably racist as well. And he thinks he's been very hard done by. He thinks he's been a great Prime Minister. He's not listening to anybody. He just has to go, because by tomorrow, next Cabinet meeting, virtually his entire Cabinet has made it clear to him they are going to walk out if he's not given a timetable of departure. This is not an honourable resignation. This is not, as he said, a resignation with grace. Far, far from it. He's dragged kicking and screaming. But you know what? It's happened, and that's the important thing. We've got 2 more months of him, and then we're done. I, for one, am utterly thrilled. I want to hear from you. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. Text the word TALK in your message to 87222. Get in touch on X at Talk TV. Calls to charge the national rate. Text cost £1. Standard network rate message. Now, normally I'd be talking to my lovely guest, former Conservative Government Advisor, Claire Pearsall, joining me in the studio. And we'll be getting your calls. First up, though, delighted to say Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice, is on the line. A very good morning to you, Richard. Happy day for you.
I've got a massive smile on my face, Julia, just like you. It's a bit early to break out the champagne, but great news. I think tens of millions of people across the country are delighted. And when we had that slogan at the local elections, vote reform, get Starmer out, well, that's exactly what happened. And at Makerfield, of course, people wanted to guarantee it by voting Burnham to get Starmer out. He's gone. Great news. Peal the bells of joy across the country. And even better news, potentially, Julia, is that it may not be 2 months, because if there's not another applicant for the job apart from Andy Burnham, then Starmer said that he would resign and go as Prime Minister on July the 17th. Yep. And then Burnham, as the only applicant, would then be Prime Minister. And I've got an interesting tweet. There's always a tweet, Julia. Yep. If I can just read this out to you, from Andy Burnham. 3 years ago, we need to start demanding a general election at the end of this Tory leadership election. Well, well, well. That was Andy Burnham actually 4 years ago in 2022. So we're saying stick by your word, be consistent, Andy, and when you're Prime Minister, call a general election, because you've got no mandate whatsoever to impose upon the nation your vacuous, wishy-washy socialist policies. Not that anyone knows actually what you stand for, except that you want to change the existing policies. Put them to the British people, and reform will beat you and will save Britain.
And your leader, Nigel Farage, has said that he's demanding a general election. And we know that Labour, not just Keir Starmer, not just Andy Burnham, pretty much everybody called for there to be a general election every time the Tories ousted one of their leaders. You know, constitutionally, there's no requirement for that, but it's perfectly reasonable to call them out on it when they demand it from the Tories. Everyone's got a right to demand it from them. Realistically, he's not going to hold a general election unless there's a very large bounce. And there have been question marks about that.
Well, let's see. I suspect that he will get a bit of a bounce because people will be so thrilled to get rid of Starmer. I think the Green vote will disappear down a plug hole. Zach Polanski seems to be stuck in a submarine somewhere. And I think that it's interesting that the Tories are not calling for an election, nor the Lib Dems. They're petrified of such a thing. It's basically a two-horse race. But if he doesn't have an election before November and the budget that will be due then, that will be a heavy tax-raising budget, and he will be as or more unpopular than Keir Starmer. So if he gets a bit of a electoral bounce and he's true to his word and consistent as a man of honour, a man from the north, then he should do the right thing and call a general election.
I didn't know that being from the north meant you had honour, rather. Can I just say, you're mentioning a post from Andy Burnham from 3 years ago. He's actually posted in the last few moments on X reacting to Starmer's resignation. A lot of it is, as you'd expect. Keir has given huge service to our country. I want to thank him for his leadership and dedication during such a challenging period. His decision marks the beginning of a transition, and it is important that this process is conducted in an orderly and responsible way. I will put myself forward as part of this process. I think that's the first time he has formally said that. The country expects stability, seriousness and a continued focus on the issues that matter most, and this is what it will get. He said, as we move forward, our priority must be to work together to get the country back to where we all want it to be. People want to see progress on economic growth, cost of living, public services, housing and opportunities for the next generation. Political change should never distract from the responsibility to improve people's lives. Just a final paragraph. The Labour movement has always been at its strongest when it looks forward with confidence and purpose. This is what we will do from here, and we will make sure this transition is a positive process of renewal for our party and our country. So two things there. First, we've got the first time he's actually said formally that publicly he's going to put himself forward. And secondly, we've got a hint of what he thinks his priorities are. I've got to be honest with you, and I would say this whoever I was talking to right now, quite a lot of flim-flam there.
That's what he is. He's always been Captain Flip-Flop, King of the U-turn, flim-flam, vacuous. That's why he lost two Labour leadership contests in 2010 and 15. The idea that he could just carry on for 3 years with just the votes of 25,000 people, no mandate from the British people. He stood in his victory speech last week and said, actually, that he needed to change Labour. They are going to change, and he is going to want to raise taxes very significantly. The markets are going to react badly, and he just can't. I just don't think it's credible. I think the country will be absolutely furious. It's pretty clear that there's unlikely to be a contest. I see that Wes Streeting has just put out a statement saying that he will not stand for leadership, having spoken to Andy Burnham.
Literally so just appeared on my screen as you said that. Yes, he said he would back.
Well, Andy... I always like to keep. Like to keep ahead, Julia.
He would back Andy Burnham for the Labour leadership, saying he can win the fight of our lives against the forces of nationalism. Now, again, I saw Wes Streeting on Thursday. He said he had the 81 votes. I don't believe he did. He must have done a deal. In which case, as you say, 9th of July the nominations open. 17th of July nominations close. If no other sort of Starmerite candidate, but not talk about people like Darren Jones, the likes of Al Khan's, others putting their names forward. Certainly, again, we had Al Khan's on the show last week, the former Defence Minister, John Heer, others. I don't really see that happening. The word is that Burnham's got some 300, almost 300 of the 400-odd Labour MPs, in which case there's kind of no point running for this. But here's the thing.
Well, the point of trying to run is to get to guarantee that you get a higher cabinet seat. I think that one of those, particularly Al Khan's, will try to get the 81. It'll be interesting whether. I mean, there are quite a number of Labour MPs who are expressing real concern about the lack of a contest, the likes of Mike Tapp, John Slinger and co. John Slinger yesterday said that Andy Burnham had a less of a job interview than he would give to one of his interns for a summer job in Parliament. And it's a fair point he makes. So let's wait and see. If there was a contest, Burnham might lose it, which is why that's the last thing he wants.
Well, that's it, having the scrutiny. But here's the thing. Look, you're standing all, up for the fight. Realistically, there isn't going to be a general election anytime soon. You don't really want one. I know you're ahead in the polls in reform, but let's face it, you got to. I mean, I know you had a decent vote. You came second. You had 35% of the vote in Makerfield. But at the end of the day, that was a seat that you were telling people publicly and privately that you could win, that it would be close. It wasn't close. Even allowing for people like me who might have gone, do you know what? I think I'll vote for Burnham just to get Starmer out because we just can't bear this man in number 10 anymore. The reality is, a lot of people are saying that your party's bubble has burst. Pressure from the left, so you've got the Burnham, the appeal he'll have over and above Keir Starmer. Pressure from the right, from Rupert Lowe's Restore. A lot of people are saying, Reform, you've reached your peak, you can't do it.
Nonsense. We would be ready. We're delighted at the prospect of a general election, and we would have a full manifesto, full slate of great candidates.
Will you be vetting their social media posts?
Of course, we'll be doing all of that,
Should do
Julia,
that.
and more besides. Yeah, that and all more besides. And we say bring it on. And it's interesting that the other parties don't seem to want one. They seem quite happy with a sort of cosy cartel of the Uniparty. Who is Andy Burnham? What does he stand for? What's his view on how's he going to stop the boats? How's he going to stop mass immigration? Does he want men going into female bathroom spaces or not? Does he want to rejoin the EU or not? Does he want to compensate the waspy women or not? All of these things, we've no idea. What does he want to do about net stupid zero? And on the list goes. And we think that the British people deserve a general election, given the state of Britain, which is clearly broken. Everybody knows it. Everybody can see it. And that's why we're leading in all the national polls. So trust me, we're delighted to have an autumn election. And if he waits until November, until a tax-raising budget, I think he'll be as unpopular as Keir Starmer.
Just finally, Kimmy Badenoch read a big piece in the Mail on Sunday about how there will be no coalition between Reform and the Tories. I think this was very specifically about some sort of electoral pact of some sort before. I don't think anyone's expecting that. But do you rule it out as strongly as she does?
Yeah, we're saying to people, if you want to get rid of socialism and flim-flam, soggy Lib Dem-style politics, that we also saw, by the way, under the Tories, that she was a part of, then you've got to vote Reform. That's the only way that you can have common-sense policies, scrap net zero, stop the boats, and save this great country and make people better off.
Richard Tice, Deputy Leader of Reform UK, thank you very much. 11:15 is the time. Claire Pearce will listen to all of that with a wonderful frown on your face for the last few moments.
Yes. It's not about whether you deserve a general election or not. Our system isn't set up like this. It's not a presidential system. We're not voting for one person over another. It's a constituency. It's a democracy.
No Prime Minister has a mandate, technically, from anyone other than their local constituency.
Exactly. So I think that's nonsense. And I would love to see Reform's full slate of candidate fully vetted and ready to rock by autumn, because it isn't going to happen. The Conservative Party aren't ready either, so I'm not speaking out of turn.
There's a reason why the Conservative Party isn't calling for this. There's no, and there is no mandate. I'm sorry, I always defend our constitutional system. We don't have a presidential system. There's an argument for moving to one. A bit difficult when you've got a head of state who, as well, he's a head of government, he or she. The thing I just find, Jodie, can we just have a little moment? Can we just have a little moment to laugh about the fact that once again, the next leader of the Labour Party is going to be a middle-aged, straight white guy. I couldn't care less whether he had one leg, gay, straight, black, brown, religion, I don't care. Man or woman, I don't care. But they bang on about diversity this, diversity that, and how you have to be representative, and they're obsessed with it. The amount of times there's been all the not enough women in cabinet, and the first woman chancellor, how's that worked out for everybody? I mean, they bang on about this stuff all the time. And by the way, an awful lot on the left of the Labour Party who bang on about it the most, the Blue Hair Brigade, they're the ones who say the most outrageous racist things about the likes of Kemi Badenoch and previously Rishi Sunak and Suella Braverman. I mean, particularly usually aimed at women, Tory women with brown skin, where, they're calling them coconuts, things. I mean, blatant, open racism. Or if you're black or brown, you must have certain political views. I mean, hello. But I just love the fact that I've actually joked with a few senior Labour people, like, well, no offence, you're not going to be the next Labour leader. Or how do you know? Well, because you're not a woman or because you're not straight. I mean, sorry, didn't you know the rules in your party? Isn't it hilarious that the Tories, I mean, they just, you just accidentally keep, all these people just keep coming through the system who are judged on whether you agree with them or not, but they are judged on merit rather than do you tick a box. And the Labour Party, they're obsessed. They've never managed to come up, never once come up with a winning candidate who's not a straight white man.
And I mean, that's the thing. They have a go at the Tories and say how awful we are, but we do promote people on merit. We do allow people to stand and listen to them. That's what the Conservative Party does. So the Labour Party like to lecture us endlessly about how we need to be equal to all. And in their party, they're just not. Totally.
Well, let's just reiterate what has happened this morning at about 9:30. Gutted it wasn't on my show, gutted. But I got to whoop and I wouldn't been able to do otherwise if I was on air. Pretty much did at 10 o'clock, to be fair. But the Prime Minister has resigned. He has said categorically that he's resigned as Labour leader. He's going to stay on as Prime Minister, but he wants a new Prime Minister, a new leader of the Labour Party in place before the beginning of September when Parliament returns from the summer recess, and that he will stay on until then, orderly transition, blah, blah, blah. But 9th of July is when nominations open to be the next Labour leader. You need 81 MPs for each candidate to actually stand. Now, we know that Andy Burnham's going to stand because he has, we know that's why he wanted to return to Parliament, because he has just said categorically that he will. He says, I will put myself forward as part of this process. This is a process conducted in an orderly and responsible way, basically to stand as the next Labour leader. And within moments of that, clearly a deal has been done. The former Health Secretary who resigned from running the NHS effectively, Wes Streeting, has said he will back Andy Burnham for the Labour leadership contest, saying he can win the fight of our lives against the forces of nationalism. I love that nationalism is somehow a bad thing. It's like populism. It's like, what things are popular that the people want. Nationalism, defending your country, how outrageous and disgusting. So the two, one man who's we know has got at least half the parliamentary party already supporting him. He's going to be putting himself on the ballot papers. We know he's on there. Wes Streeting, again, I never thought he actually had those 81 MPs behind him. I think he had about half that. There are other people whose name, Al Khan's the Defence Minister who'd resigned, Armed Forces Minister. We had him on the show last week. I mean, really enjoyed it. When I did ask what is your top achievement, what's Labour's top achievement in office, and he did, one of the things he mentioned was the scrapping of the two-child benefit cap. And you think he's sensible, and then he says something like that. I know John Healey, others. I think the momentum is just so strongly with Burnham. No one else realistically is going to stand who wouldn't face utter humiliation. And as Richard Dice just pointed out, the nominations close on the 17th of July, and at that point, if there's only one candidate, then you have a new leader of the Labour Party. But Burnham doesn't want a contest, he wants the coronation. But equally, he's not ready. He hasn't got... we don't know who is... I mean, it's not like when Keir Starmer was campaigning to be leader and you had Rachel Reeves, who, for some reason, before we knew her CV was a load of lies, that she was credible and therefore that was the team. You kind of knew who the team was. Now, we haven't got a clue who his team is. We don't know any of his policies. We don't know anything that he wants to do in office.
And do you not think this is a whole new level of arrogance? So last Thursday he won a by-election to become an MP, and now he's sort of gracing us with his presence down here in the south. He's coming from the north, the big great white hope, to be sworn in and take over because he's best placed. So it's like, well, hang on a second.
Who do you think you are?
Absolutely. And I think a lot of Labour backbenchers are also going to go, I'm not going to have a job with any of these people, so I can be as nuisance-making as I like.
This is the thing. As soon as you start appointing people, you then start...
Yeah, there's lists going
putting
around
the backs up of other people who don't get that job. And when you get your Ed Miliband's who, frankly, think that they helped orchestrate you getting this role, they're going to be like, well, hold on a minute. How come? Now, before we go to a break, I'm going to have to get another caller on. I normally do callers after us, but I've got to do this because it's Georgina in London, our favourite. Georgina, I'm absolutely gutted. Just want to let you know today, I'm thrilled about Keir Starmer going. I'm absolutely gutted that you are unlikely, it's going to be Andy Burnham, to be our next Prime Minister, because I would really like you in the job. How are you today?
I'm fine, my darling. Good morning to you. Good morning, Claire. I'm elated. Today is a good day, Julia, helped by the resignation of the worst Prime Minister that our country's ever had. He's not resigned willingly. He has been ousted out. He's been told categorically that he should go, and today should be marked as a national holiday.
It's not the World Cup, this is it.
The tears that he shed were for himself, Julia, for the loss of his position, the loss of his power, the loss of faith. I've got no sympathy with this man whatsoever. The tears were not for our patriots who were thrown into prison for speaking the truth, for being called far-right, racist or bigot. In fact, they were not for any of our population who suffered at the hands of his catastrophic handling of our country. In this case, the trash has taken itself out, Julia. No one likes an unelected Prime Minister, so whoever comes next as the leader of the Labour Party will, I'm sure, suffer the same fate. We need truth from our politicians. We need transparency. Our country needs growth in our economy. It needs societal stability. And most of all, we need defence that will protect our nation. Britain can just for a moment bask in the elation that Starmer has gone. It can exhale for a moment until the next unelected Prime Minister takes office.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Oh, Georgina, you enjoy a glass of fizz, my darling. You'll get to one before I do today. Up next, we're going to go to live to Downing Street, where Peter Cardwell is live for us. This is Talk.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk, the home of common sense, for me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. 11:26 is the time. Let's go live to Downing Street, where Talk presenter Peter Cardwell is, stalking the tearful Prime Minister. Very, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you so much for joining us. Well, we have seen footage of Andy Burnham has now arrived in London. The only thing standing between him and being sworn in as an MP today was the West Coast Main Line. He's managed to survive that, to get to London. He's going to be here. I hope he's wearing a black T-shirt, as used Trayton jeans. I'm hoping he will be putting a tie on, as he's required to in the House of Commons when he does that. Fascinating to see not just the Prime Minister's resignation, but Andy Burnham throwing his hat in the ring, and crucially also Wes Streeting abandoning his leadership bid. What do you make of it all?
Well, I think what's on track is not just Andy Burnham getting into Parliament, getting sworn in, but probably a coronation. It's highly unlikely there's any other Labour MP who could command over 200 of his or her fellow MPs. That's what Andy Burnham says he has at the moment. Wes Streeting either didn't have the numbers or at least just saw the writing on the wall for an Andy Burnham victory. It'd be interesting to see what deal, if any, has been done by Wes Streeting and Andy Burnham. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Wes Streeting in one of the great offices of state, possibly even Chancellor.
Yeah.
Look over there at that man who can do all those nasty things and raise your taxes and do all sorts of difficult things with welfare, therefore not reflecting badly on Andy Burnham. That wouldn't surprise me. So I think the sands have shifted very dramatically, even in the last few minutes here in Westminster, never mind in the last couple of hours with the resignation of the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer.
And indeed. Now, Keir Starmer talked an awful lot about the honour that it had been, and he was going with grace and all this. And of course, we all know actually he was dragged kicking and screaming out, and that he'd been holed up in Chequers after speaking to members of the Cabinet, done a ring round after that Makerfield by-election. And it was a stonking victory, 55% of the vote for Andy Burnham. I think a lot of people think, you've got to remember, the Reform, who came second, and Andy Burnham had exactly the same basic campaign unofficial slogan, which is, vote Burnham, get Starmer out, and he is out. But clearly that put the wind up quite a lot of MPs who were wavering and realised, right, the tide is turning. Burnham's in. He's got at least a mandate from a working class northern red wall leave voting seat, took on Reform. They're reading, in my view, way too much into that victory. It's just that was an anti-Keir Starmer vote, in my view. But he is a popular figure right now, but very easy to be popular if you haven't actually told people what you're going to do. Have you managed? I've read every single piece going. I've read stuff that he's authored himself. I genuinely can't work out who Andy Burnham is and what he believes in, other than this bizarre Manchesterism thing, and no one's got a clue what that is. But I'm wondering if we know more about him than we knew about Keir Starmer, because, again, Keir Starmer ran on the left in 2020 for the leadership of the Labour Party, then ran sort of as almost a Blairite in 2024, and we had no idea what we'd get, and we didn't like what we did get. Do you think that's what's going to happen to Burnham?
I think that's exactly what's going to happen with Andy Burnham. Also with Keir Starmer, at least there was some testing, at least there were some interviews, at least there was a manifesto, at least there was
4 years.
Something that we could... Yes, well, exactly. There was a record, whereas with Andy Burnham, he'll point to his record in Manchester, but having a £3 billion budget as Mayor of Manchester is very, very different from having a £1.4 trillion budget as Prime Minister. You also don't have to deal with a lot of things like defence spending, huge issue recently, as we both know, or foreign affairs more generally. So there are lots of things that Keir Starmer has done, probably not very well actually, that Andy Burnham has never done. He's been Health Secretary. He's only ever dealt with domestic briefs. He was Chief Secretary to the Treasury and a Home Office Minister and so on. He's never dealt with foreign affairs. He's never dealt with defence. Those are two sort of huge issues, as well as the big challenges with the economy that Keir Starmer said, everything's fine this morning, I think was pretty delusional.
Yes.
Very interesting from Andy Burnham's perspective, as well as when you're a mayor, what you can say is everything that goes well, by the way, that was me, aren't I great?
Yep.
Everything that goes badly, big bad Westminster.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, I mean, let's just look at, the Prime Minister said he was going to go. He said he's going to stay on, wants a new Prime Minister in place before new Labour leader. He's resigning as Labour leader, not as Prime Minister. He's staying on until before September. But 9th of July is when the nominations open to be Labour leader. Andy Burnham has said categorically, I think this is the first time he's done that, I will put myself forward as part of this process. Yeah. After saying the usual, Keir's given huge service to our country, thanking him for his leadership and dedication during such a challenging period. I mean, he can do that, I wouldn't. Thanks, but no thanks, I'd say. It was fascinating. Within minutes, we had a post. I mean, Angela Rayner, she's reacted to the resignation. She hasn't mentioned anything about running. We're pretty sure she's very, very supportive of Andy Burnham. She was up there campaigning most days in Makerfield. But Wes Streeting tweeted almost immediately that he would back Andy Burnham for the Labour leadership, saying he can win the fight of our lives against the forces of nationalism. I don't know why nationalism got such a bad name, but he said that he'd been setting out his ideas for progressive capitalism in recent weeks, but interestingly he said, having spoken at length with Andy in recent days, I'm convinced that there is a place for those ideas under his leadership, that he's committed to building an inclusive party that draws on the best of our political traditions, and that he can win the fight of our lives against the forces of nationalism. We could spend the summer exaggerating small differences, or we can roll up our sleeves and help him to deliver the change our party and country needs. That is the choice I'm making. I hope that everyone else will back Andy too. Realistically, the only other name that's really been touted as someone who could take him on was Al Carnes, the outgoing Armed Forces Minister. He said Keir has done the right thing, and he says we have the ideas, we have the talent, we need the courage and leadership to deliver them. That's what comes next. Not necessarily a suggestion that he's going to run. It looks like it's going to be a coronation, in which case we could be seeing Prime Minister Andy Burnham by the 17th or 18th of July, the day after the nominations close.
Yeah.
Is Andy Burnham ready for office on the 18th of July?
He will think so. He will think, as a former cabinet minister, as someone who's been mayor of a major city region in our country, that he's ready. Clearly the Labour Party think he's ready. Wes Streeting has calculated that he doesn't have the numbers. Maybe a deal has been done behind the scenes. Angela Rayner knows that she would have a seriously high-profile cabinet position. I think people like Louise Hay will come back, for example, which is fascinating given that she was sacked for lying about stealing mobile phones. I mean, it's just crazy.
At one point she was being touted as a possible chancellor.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it is just, well, she's probably not going to be Home Secretary. I don't think the police would have a huge truck with her with a criminal conviction. Interestingly, I think in all of this, Al Cairns is a pivotal figure because he doesn't have the numbers, but he does have a lot of credibility when it comes to defence. And the big question for Andy Burnham is, will he find that money for defence? Someone like Al Cairns inside your tent is better than outside the tent. Could he be Defence Secretary? You know, there's a lot going on here. I think it's a bad day for Darren Jones. Obviously, we will all weep with that news. I think it's a bad day probably for Peter Kyle as well, unless his friend Wes Streeting can save him. But we'll see big changes in the cabinet. We'll see big changes in the personalities at the top of Labour. The question is, will there be a change of direction hugely? And is Andy Burnham someone who can actually deliver change and convince the country that Labour is anything more than an also-ran, certainly when it comes to an election in perhaps 3 years' time, perhaps sooner than that. Nigel Farage today calling for a general election. I don't think he's going to get it.
No, indeed. But again, we had a manifesto in 2024 for Labour with a big picture of Keir Starmer on white background with the word change. I mean, genuinely, it's all we've heard about. Andy Burnham, change. What change? To what? What are you going to do? We haven't had him outline. As you said, he hasn't talked about defence. He hasn't talked about foreign policy. These are crucial things. Can't wait to see his first meeting, if he gets one with Donald Trump. That will be hilarious. I mean, to be fair, Keir Starmer didn't do badly on that front. Give him credit on that. That's a difficult one to work your way through. But, I mean, we have no idea. I mean, other than the fact everyone says he's soft left. He calls himself, so did Keir Starmer, a socialist. Lots of talk of actually, you know, tax on the wealthy and all of this stuff. You know, a lot of the people who are supporting him, they are expecting him to shift to the left. But that's not where the country is.
You're absolutely right, and I think being all things to all men and women is something that Andy Burnham can do at the moment. I would be very surprised if he does many interviews, if he does holds himself up to any great level of scrutiny, because he knows he has this in the bag. All he has to do now is sit there and do nothing. People will project their version of what they want him to do onto Andy Burnham. He will say very little and then govern how he wants to govern, and that is, you know, there's a real freedom in office. And when it comes to change, Julia, all I would say is change is inevitable. Except from vending machines.
Peter Cardwell, live from Downing Street there, talk presenter. In fact, there's lots of banging and things, like they're putting away trucks and things. We had that awful noise, didn't we, Claire Pistol, when Keir Starmer was first speaking. And we've had this before, people shouting him down, his music. That, of course, was our old friend, Steve Bray, Mr. Stop Brexit. I've almost come to blows with that man, I really have, over the years.
Lots have.
I've actually been live on Sky News and just turned around and went, will you shut up? Can't hear myself think. You know, I'm being asked a question, I can't even hear it. I have to say, I don't think anyone's actually, at that point, had ever done that to him. But he was playing some very loud classical music. I can't remember what it was.
It was Ode to Joy.
Was it Ode to Joy? It was. I thought it was, but I didn't want to tempt fate by it not being. But I mean, again, it's so we're going to have to stop these outdoor announcements, because that is just, it's ridiculous.
Yes, and I know that he has a right to do that, but also I think
we have a right to hear the Prime Minister.
Precisely, and the police should be able to move that on.
I don't think you have a right to protest how you want, as loud you want, at any time that you want, wherever you want. I'm sorry, I don't think that is part of the protesting. Anyway, by the way, Kemi Badenoch has just replied to Wes Streeting's letter, which he put out on X, saying he's not running. And she said, if you're not running, what are we waiting for? She wants Andy Burnham in office as soon as he does. Except I don't think Andy Burnham wants to come in just yet. I don't think he's ready. 11:36 is the time. We're going to take a quick break. Up next, going to be talking to Carl Turner. He was a Labour MP. Andy Burnham is about to become a Labour MP later today. But Carl Turner is now an independent for Hull East. I wonder if he's going to be a Labour MP within a few weeks again. We'll find out what he thinks up next. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back. This is Talk, the home of common sense. 11:38 is the time. If you've just tuned in, you've missed a fun morning. About 2 hours ago, Keir Starmer was standing outside Downing Street, resigning as leader of the Labour Party. We are into election mode. Or are we? Are we into coronation mode? Andy Burnham has confirmed for the first time officially that we all knew it was going to happen, that he is standing for the Labour leadership. But Wes Streeting has said he will not be standing. Yet to have anyone else throw their hat in the ring. Nominations don't even open until 9th of July. But are we going to be seeing Prime Minister Burnham rather sooner than even the Prime Minister was thinking? Carl Turner joins us now. He was a Labour MP, lost the whip some months ago, is now an independent MP for Hull East. Good morning to you, Carl.
Good morning, Julia. It's a pleasure to be with you as always.
Well, lovely to have you with us. So first question, was it right for Keir Starmer to resign, and was it honourable? Was it done with grace, or was he dragged kicking and screaming?
Well, look, I mean, I'm not a narcissist, so I have to have some sympathy with the fact that he was clearly very upset and emotional. But the reason, in my view, is he was dragged out. I mean, kicking and screaming is the truth of it. He ought to have seen the writing on the wall well before today, in my view. It was a thumping majority of Andy Burnham, frankly. He's done the right thing now. But do I have sympathy with him? Not really, if I'm really honest with you.
That's so refreshing. But you said this basically, when people say they've done the right thing, he's done the only thing. All of his cabinet was basically going to resign tomorrow.
Well, exactly. He's done the only thing.
He's done the thing. He's done the thing he had to do. I mean, OK, he took the whip away from you for just speaking out, and I would say standing true. I mean, again, the end to jury trials was one of the crucial things. That was, again, not another thing that wasn't in the manifesto. Pretty much all the policies we know him for are actually not in the manifesto. It is quite extraordinary. And I'm thinking, you know, the national insurance rise, winter fuel payment cuts, scrapping the two-child benefit cap, the Chagos deal, digital ID scheme, scrapping jury trials, the family farm tax, social media ban for under 16s. That's the only one that's actually popular, but I think for the wrong reasons. I mean, it is extraordinary how many things he wanted to do without a mandate. Does it matter that Andy Burnham won't have a mandate either?
Well, just on that point, you've raised it, so I'm going to speak to it if you don't mind. I was literally suspended from the whip for telling the truth. That's what happened. I was suspended from the whip for saying this stuff is ludicrous and won't work. That's what was happening under Keir Starmer's leadership. So my sympathy is diminished as a result of the fact of the way people were treated.
Are you hoping to get the whip back?
Keir Starmer. Well, I've been speaking with Andy Burnham for months, in fact.
Is he going to give you the whip back? Come on.
Of course I'm getting the whip back. Of course I am. I mean, he's told me I'll get the whip back immediately. But look, this is about... You asked me a serious question there. Can he govern without, without the authority? Well, yes, he can, because as you've said on numerous occasions, we don't have a presidential system. It's a parliamentary democracy. Now, that is the system that we're in. If people don't like it, we seek to change that. But at the minute, that is the democracy.
the system. Okay,
now,
so...
Julia, people like me in opposition were screaming and bawling from the rafters, saying that this Prime Minister or that Prime Minister ought to go the general election. Of course we would. I expect the Tories to do it. I expect Reform to do it. The Tories probably don't want an election.
No, Reform have called for one, but they don't want one yet either.
Reform quite fancy it, but I don't think they're anything like ready, to be honest. But look, that's what they're bound to do. The idea of that is for the birds.
But honestly, doesn't you say you lost the whip for your honesty? But that's part of the dishonesty that we do get. This is the stuff that the voters don't like, which is, you say one thing in opposition. You say, if you think that there should have been a general election when the Tories changed Prime Minister, then there should be a general election when Labour changes Prime Minister. And the argument that, well, the Tories didn't have one, so we don't have one, isn't a very strong moral case.
It's not. It's pathetic.
But there's no constitutional need for it. Here's the thing. In terms of having a mandate, at least you say, there were actually, well, certainly for Liz Truss, there had been a contest. There had been some, and not for Rishi Sunak, he lost that contest, but to be fair, there had actually been examination of their ideas. I actually chaired one of their hustings, to actually get their thoughts on things. But, people able to ask their views on national television, debates. We haven't had any of that. Without West Streeting standing, doesn't look necessarily like Al Khan's is going to stand. It looks right now that we could not have any contest at all. It would be a coronation of Andy Burnham. You said you've been talking to him lots. I've been reading everything I know about him. I've known him for years. I haven't got a clue what his policies would be. This is going to be someone who hasn't got the mandate of being the leader of the party from his manifesto, whose ideas, whose plans, who he's going to be in his cabinet, we haven't got a clue about. That is a bit of a risk for Labour, isn't it?
Well, there's a couple of things to this. Firstly, we did stand in 2024 on a manifesto, which is still the manifesto on the programme for government.
Change.
It just did.
Change.
Well, you've just mentioned in your previous interview, there was two things on that manifesto. One was a picture of Keir Starmer and the word change. Well, promise made and promise delivered in that sense. Because he's not, let's be honest. But look, I don't really want to make light of it, but I am cheesed off, Julia, because what we promised in opposition was competence, and it's been anything but. I'm embarrassed. I'm really, truly, honestly, I am embarrassed because I did think we would be competent. We've not been. We've done some stuff, and Keir reeled a few of them off. And I'm proud of the achievements we've made, if it's changing the lives of people in East Hull. But actually, it's been a chaotic, incompetent and embarrassing government under Keir's leadership. That's just the truth. We can't get away from it. Will he be better, Andy Burnham? Yeah, I think he will. I think he has got a plan. There have been things happening in the background. I'm not going to give any trade secrets away, but people have been working on policy documents and commissions. I've been involved to an extent on one of them.
Jury trials.
When it comes to the criminal justice system and justice
per se. Can you give us a little bit of a clue?
That, Julia, has been headed up by very, very big, heavyweight academics and practitioners and judges
if you're not going to give us
an idea about the system.
If you're not going to give us specific policies, I'd love you to do so. Can you give us a clue in terms of the general direction? Is he going to be, as lots of people are talking about, even Richard House Reform was saying, the Green vote's going to slip away because people see Burnham is on the left. He's called himself a socialist. People say he's soft left. He's not hard left Jeremy Corbyn, but he's certainly closer on a lot of things to Jeremy Corbyn than he is to Keir Starmer. Where is he on the spectrum? What kind of government are we going to see? Because it's not going to be Blairite, is it?
I think, Julia, what I would say about Andy Burnham is he is a pragmatist, right? And that's sometimes frustrating because he's often accused of flip-floppery. Well, I don't think it is flip-floppery. I think he's a person who will listen, he will take on the debate, he will see what the politics of a thing is, and he'll make a decision, and he'll stand by it. He's not a guy who looks around the room to point blame in the direction of somebody else.
I get that. The pragmatist thing is good, and I prefer someone who's a pragmatist who's good at managing and getting stuff done than someone who's just an ideologue. However, you say that, but the reason he's called a flip-flopper is because he does things like we should absolutely support the WASPy women, those women who basically had to retire 6 years later than they thought they were going to do because they didn't do any pre-planning at all for their retirement, and the cost of compensating them would be £10 billion of our hard-earned taxes. Now, he supported them, and literally within a week, he didn't support them. You're saying, oh, well, that's good because he knows we haven't got the money, but he shouldn't have said it in the first place. This is someone who doesn't think things through and goes for soft, easy wins, like, yeah, I'm a good guy, I support these people, but actually doesn't make the tough decisions. That is why he's called Flip-Flop Andy, is that actually he says things that he can't follow through on.
Well, I'm not going to agree with that, Julia, because I think in the heat of a campaign where you're trying to be elected as an MP, when the world knows, frankly, that you're going to be the MP for one reason only, and that's to waltz into Downing Street as soon as your legs will carry you, I think the pressure is on, and I think when you're asked something, you're entitled to think about it and change your mind thereafter.
No. You're saying in a local by-election the pressure is on. How is he going to cope at a G7 summit?
Well, because he'll be the Prime Minister by then.
So he's just going to say whatever he can get away with then?
I don't think he was saying whatever he can get away with. I think he was saying that it was right that the WASPy women should be compensated.
He had said it was immoral not to compensate them, and then he backtracked on it.
He did.
Now, I believe it's insane to offer them compensation, and I've always said that. But he's not consistent because he doesn't believe in anything.
Well, that's not true.
What does he believe in?
Andy Burnham does believe. Well, you asked what his politics is. I think he's on probably the same wing or branch of the Labour Party as me, really. He's soft left. He's not a mad left-wing, Corbynista type politician, but he is a socialist, I think, and so am I, and he is pragmatic, and he will want to get stuff done in a way which he feels is fair for everybody. And I think he will have to come up with some really difficult decisions. That's what being in number 10 Downing Street is about.
Okay. Well, we'll see. By the way, I'm going to actually query whether or not you can be a socialist and be pragmatic and at the same time, because I think it's one or the other.
I've got a socialist dog as well, Julia, which is desperate to say hello.
She's got no choice, poor thing. Keir Starmer, independent, soon to be back as a Labour MP for Hollies. Thank you very much indeed. Going to take a quick break, but just before then, Claire Pearsall. I mean, I still don't think I got any closer to finding out who Wes Streeting is.
No, you tried really hard and you just didn't get any answer.
I don't know.
He's, pragmatic, is he? Why? Where's the proof of that?
Pragmatic means that you just say what can get away with at the time.
Yeah.
I like someone being pragmatic, but I also want someone who actually believes in something.
Yes.
As opposed to, I'm believing in social justice. What does that mean? What does that mean? Like, what does that actually mean in practice?
What does change mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Same thing,
exactly.
aren't we?
Well, up next, we're going to try and find out if my next guest is after the break. We're going to talk to Luke Sullivan. He was political director to Keir Starmer for 3 years. What does he make of his resignation and what follows next? This is Talk.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk, the home of common sense, for me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Just to let you know, Andy Burnham, I thought he'd already arrived in London. The footage we had was actually in Manchester. Andy Burnham is on his way, him on the West Coast main line. Good luck, sir, to get to London to be sworn in as an MP. But it does seem to be very, very clear that we are not going to be getting a contest. We're going to get a coronation, effectively, of Andy Burnham. He could be in office within a month's time. Lots of big decisions to be taken pretty much almost immediately. Defence investment plan, all of that. Will the Prime Minister leave that to Andy Burnham or do it himself? Well, we'll wait and see what happens. First up there, let's talk to Luke Sullivan. He's the former political director to Keir Starmer when he was in opposition, and he's now at the Headland Consultancy. Good morning to you, Luke.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. First of all, what did you make of Keir Starmer's resignation speech?
Yeah, I mean, I think you saw the sort of complete Keir Starmer that all of us have had the pleasure and honour to know up close. I think he gave a very dignified speech, but you also saw that moment that I think often with politicians you only see at the end, where he showed his humanity and his emotion. And it wasn't until the end when he was talking about his most important thing in life, which is his family, his wife Vic, and talking about being the best dad he can be to his two children, that I think we sort of saw that veneer break. And it was a very dignified speech. And look, I do think the Labour Party owes him a deep debt of gratitude, because when he did take over 6 years ago, as Keir Starmer said, the Labour Party was financially, politically and morally bankrupt. And it's because of him that we've managed to get to where we've got to.
Well, look, he's a damn sight better than Jeremy Corbyn, certainly morally, I would say. I mean, it was a dignified speech, other than the fact, I have to say, I was whooping with joy and wishing I had a bottle of champagne in front of me. But he's talked about going with grace and all of this. But the reality is, I've said this a million times this morning, but he was actually dragged kicking and screaming. He spent the weekend, by all accounts, being absolutely furious that his cabinet weren't backing him. There's been lots of talk until, even until last Friday, that he was going to stand and fight, and he would run in any contest. And frankly, he feels, for the very reasons you just said, that he feels the Labour Party owe him a debt of gratitude, and he's absolutely furious that he's being forced out, isn't he?
Look, I've seen some of those briefings. I think it's human that any politician, and look, let's remember how unique it is to get to the top of your profession and become the Prime Minister of this great country. These are not ordinary people who give up, when the stacks and the odds are against them. And I think that's just human and natural. I'm sure it is a mix of emotions that Keir Starmer, I'm certain, will think that he had more to offer this country and the Labour Party. But look, I think, as he said, and he was very gracious in his speech, he accepted that a majority of his colleagues have reached a different decision. And I thought it was with great grace he said, whoever comes next, and I think it's very clear that is going to be Andy Burnham, as you've just said, that he will have Keir Starmer's full support.
I mean, but again,
that is Keir
he couldn't
Starmer
have said,
that I know.
He couldn't have said, and whoever comes next, I'm going to try and do them over. I mean, you know what I mean? There's a lot of them was said that you have to say. I mean, it's the sort of thing you have to say. If one of your colleagues was leaving and your boss, and you absolutely hated them, you'd still say a lot of those nice things. The reality is, he doesn't think that Andy Burnham will be a better Prime Minister than him. And one of the things about people who want to be Prime Minister is, it's quite an ego. I think I'm the best person in this country to run this country. That's quite an ego. And you have to have an ego, and you need to have a relative thick skin to be able to withstand it. But he has been extraordinarily unpopular. I mean, and a lot of people are questioning, particularly those on the left, like, how does a man who is so blatantly bland, so devoid of any noticeable personality or indeed opinions on anything, as far as I can tell, other than the fact that he thinks half of us are bigots, how did he become such a a figure of hate in this country and so unpopular so quickly. What took the Tory party, 12 years to get to, he managed in just 2.
Yeah, I think you put your finger right on it, which is, I do think Keir Starmer reached levels of unpopularity with a sort of vehemence and strength, I think, that really has taken me aback when I've knocked on doors. I do think it's unfair, and I think probably Keir Starmer thinks it's unfair. But look, that's the reality of where we are. Look, the voters are never wrong. Look, they get to decide. I think there's a number of reasons. I think Keir Starmer is a politician in an age where, being relatable to and making that connection with the public in an age of, multimedia platforms, social media, that was never Keir Starmer's thing. And that wasn't also what he was pitching to the country. I do think things have changed in this country. I think people are much less party stuck to one party.
Yes.
They are much more like consumers when it comes.
But a lot of the
to
conversation, has been that he didn't have the charisma, the personality, and that's what Andy Burnham's got in spades, and that's the difference. As if it wasn't the policies. I think there's an element where people would put up with a rather dull prime minister if he didn't sort of wag his finger at them and tell them they were bigots, and if he actually was competent and did a good job. I mean, I think people would actually. I would happily have that, but is personality and charisma, is that going to be enough to turn the big ship Labour around from where you are in the polls? I mean, a one Makerfield by-election victory does not a general election make.
Look, I mean, we haven't got enough time to go into the comment about bigot, but look, the key test for Andy Burnham is going to be that competence, and has he got what it takes to, put this country on the right course? He's got less than 3 years to do it. The stakes are incredibly high, not just for the country, but also for the Labour Party. Andy Burnham and the whole of the Labour Party aren't going to get a second chance here. They absolutely have to get it right, otherwise the voters will throw them out on their ear.
Absolutely. I'd love another chance to have a conversation about the bigot comment, but we don't. You're quite right. We don't have time. Luke Sutherland, really appreciate you joining us. Former political director to Keir Starmer before he was in office, now at the Headland Consultancy. Coming up, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be hearing more from Claire Pearson. We'll be hearing more from you. Get to more of your calls. 0344 499 1000. I promise we'll get to your calls. We're also going to be talking to Lord Foulkes, the Labour peer. That always goes well. Paul Mason, Labour Party activist, about what we can expect from a Burnham premiership. Oh yeah, Adam Bolton's going to be on as well. I think there's probably going to be shouting. This is Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very, very good afternoon to you. It very much is a very, very good afternoon this Monday, because Keir Starmer has resigned as as the leader of the Labour Party, and very soon to go as our Prime Minister, just so we can enjoy the frisson of happiness just one more time. Let's have a little watch to listen to what he had to say.
The question my party is asking now is whether I am best placed to lead us into the next general election. I have heard the answer of my parliamentary party to that question, and I accept that answer with good grace. Every decision I've taken has been about putting the country I love first. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party.
He can't even resign without being pompous about it, can he? I mean, honestly, I've got to be honest with you. I was whooping with joy earlier on. I've already asked you to send me photos of you drinking your champagne. We had Vincent on earlier. He was actually already, before 10:30, opening the whiskey to celebrate he's going. But again, we've got him probably a bit longer. Could be for a couple of months if there is a Labour leadership election contest. We now know that Andy Burnham, travelling right now on his way down from Manchester to London he hasn't even become a MP for Makerfield just yet after that by-election last week, but he's going to get sworn in as an MP when he arrives in London. It's just the Avanti West Coast main line standing between him and perhaps the premiership of this country. But while he has confirmed for the first time in a message this morning that he will be standing in that leadership contest, Wes Streeting, who said that he would stand in any contest, is not. Now, again, whether or not he had the 81 Labour MPs to back him or not is the question, but he will not be standing. Clearly, a deal has been done for a top job there for Wes Streeting. We had a message from Al Cars, we had a message from Angela Rayner. No sign yet that they are going to run. Now, the Prime Minister said very clearly he's standing down as the leader of the Labour Party. He will stay on as Prime Minister until there is another leader. He said that nominations will open on the 9th of July for any candidate who has the 81 votes from other MPs to stand. Of course, any of those candidates standing will then go on the 17th of July. If there is a contest and those nominations close, they will go to a ballot by Labour Party members and affiliates. If, however, there is no contest, no vote of party members, there is just a coronation of Andy Burnham, well, he could be Prime Minister by the 18th of July. The question is he ready? Keir Starmer had 4 long years as Labour Party leader in opposition to prepare for office and failed to prepare at all. Indeed, he actually sacked his Chief of Staff not long after getting into office, Sue Gray, because she was in charge of the first 100 days and apparently didn't have a plan. There's no evidence yet that Andy Burnham has a plan. We don't know what he wants to do, who he's going to appoint, what kind of Prime Minister he wants to be, what his vision is, what his plan is, what his philosophy is. We know nothing. But, you know, he wears black T-shirts and nightlife in Manchester is good. He's got charisma. Is that enough to make a great Prime Minister at a time when we need to slash that welfare bill? We need to be spending huge amounts more on defence. We need to be shoring up our position in the world. We need to be getting rid of net zero. We need to be tackling not just the boats, but net legal migration as well. Building houses, sorting out the NHS, sorting out crime, you name it. An awful lot on the to-do list for the incoming Prime Minister. Is he the man to do it? I want to hear your thoughts. Going to get to your calls coming up very soon. 0344 499 1000 is the number to get in touch. You can text the word talk in your message to 87222. Get in touch with us on X at Talk TV. I also want pictures of you popping open the champagne. I mean, it's midday. It's 5 o'clock somewhere in the world. You can open the fizz now. Don't pretend you're working from home. It's about 35 degrees. Of course you can open the fizz and celebrate. But do get in touch. Calls are charged at the national rate and text cost one standard network rate message. Claire Pearsall is joining us throughout the show, former Conservative Government Advisor. We were just saying at the break, it's gone really quickly this morning, hasn't it? Because I think we're enjoying ourselves. Is Andy Burnham the answer?
No, I don't think he is. I mean, I'm not sure what the question is if Andy Burnham is the answer. And he's got to be sworn in as an MP. So I think everyone is getting ahead of themselves.
Is he going to put a suit and tie on for that?
He better do, because otherwise I think that the Deputy Speaker might take a real dim view if he doesn't turn up properly attired.
You have to. Men are required to wear a jacket
They
and tie.
absolutely are.
Even Skinner used to wear one.
So
yes, in
he
the
might
chamber.
get sort of hoofed out before he's even started. There are rumours going around that obviously when you're a new MP you don't have an office straight away if you come in on a by-election. So he's going to be camping with the government whips.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
I think he's probably expected to get a decent office fairly soon.
Absolutely. So he doesn't have an office. And you think if you were the voters of Makerfield, surely you would be wanting him to answer all of your emails about potholes, hedges, benefits, schools, whatever the problem may be.
He could have people for that. Isn't that what Prime Ministers and Cabinet Ministers do?
He's only just got the job.
Right.
He probably won't.
OK, right. Very, very good point. Right, well, let's talk about all of this with Lord Foulkes. George Foulkes is a Labour peer. He's a former minister under Tony Blair. Good afternoon to you, Lord Foulkes.
Good afternoon, Julia.
Thank you for joining us. So, do you think that it was the right thing for Keir Starmer to stand down and to make it clear he's not going to run in a contest against Andy Burnham?
Well, you obviously did. You've been celebrating.
I know. It's great.
It's been really inappropriate for you to do that.
Why?
I mean, you're supposed to be an unbiased.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
commentator.
I don't work for the BBC. I don't work for a mainstream broadcaster. I am employed to give my opinions, which is this is opinion radio. No, George, you're quite wrong.
Who would you like as Prime Minister then, Julia?
No, I asked you the question.
What did you ask me?
That's no. I asked you the question. You said it was inappropriate for me to say it. I said, was he right to resign and not stand again, not stand in a contest?
I think he made his decision in the interest of the country, and he's done that all the way through, unlike people like you and all the other commentators who've been going on and on and on, relentlessly attacking him. The Daily Mail, the Telegraph, the Times, saying he's unpopular, shouting at him all the time, and not letting him get on with the job.
Wait a second, how have we stopped him getting on with the job? Here's the thing. You say that, he did it in the interest of the country, and you're saying that, he's had all this criticism. The people who have ousted him, it's in the Daily Mail or me criticising him or on Talk. The people who've ousted him are his own cabinet and his own Labour backbench MPs.
Well, in the end, they felt that because of the relentless criticism, it was better to suggest that he might, in the interest of the country, step down, and he's done that.
Really? They don't believe so they've got no loyalty and no faith in their own leader that they elected, and just under a bit of pressure from little old me and a few horrible right-wing newspapers, they've decided to turf out the best Prime Minister we've ever had. Come on, pull the other one, George. It's got bells on.
He was elected. The interesting thing is the Labour Party elects our leader. The party that you seem to like, the Reform Party.
Yeah, you'd have no idea what my party allegiance is.
How did he become the leader, that Farage man? How did he become leader of Reform? Was he elected?
It's totally. I couldn't care less if they just drew straws. Any party. No. A political party is entitled to elect their leader. If they want to literally have a drinking contest to elect their leader, Labour Party, Tories, Reform, Greens, it's none of my business. I can choose whether I vote for them or not.
Of course, it's your business. This is a democracy, and parties.
No. Parties aren't democracies. For instance, Labour Party has completely different electoral system. In fact, you guys have changed how you elect a Labour leader about 10 times in my lifetime. Different parties have different electoral systems or they don't. But people know about that, and they can choose to vote for it or choose not to vote for their parties. That's none of your business.
I want to be fair to the Conservative Party, the Lib Democrats, the SNP even. They all elect their leader. But Farage has never been elected by anyone.
Well, he's elected in Clacton-on-Sea.
In the party, no, I mean
if Andy Burnham ends up having a coronation, as looks very likely, with Wes Streeting, perhaps the most likely candidate against him, saying he won't run against him, he won't be elected either. So will that be outrageous?
In a parliamentary democracy, the person who leads the party, which has the majority in the House,
but he won't have been elected.
Becomes Prime Minister.
So the rules are different for different parties, are they?
No. It's a parliamentary democracy. The person who controls Parliament, who has the largest...
So the person who leads the biggest party is Prime Minister. I accept that, which is why there isn't a mandate. There is no need for a general election, and there wasn't when the Tories changed leader. However, I'm very consistent on this. I understand our constitution, but if he's not elected, you'll say he's got no. If he was. You say, Nigel Farage not elected, he's not got any credibility, he's not elected, it's undemocratic. But neither will Andy Burnham be elected, so he won't have any credibility and he won't have a mandate.
No. Well, you're just talking nonsense there, Julia.
You're just contradicting yourself.
No, you keep rabbiting on and talking nonsense, and ask a sensible question. I've
tried.
Ask a sensible question. Ask about Andy Burnham, West Streeting.
Okay.
Or,
You're the one who brought that up. All right then. Okay.
Or who's going to be the
chief? You think that Keir Starmer's done the right thing. I think he was dragged out kicking and screaming. I think he's absolutely spitting tax today, that everyone has betrayed him. They owe him. He turned around the Labour Party and is absolutely darn furious. He also doesn't think that Andy Burnham will be a better Prime Minister than him because he thinks he's been a good Prime Minister. But the polls say, and an awful lot of Labour backbenchers and Labour ministers, and now former ministers, when they speak freely, don't think he did a good job. Do you think he should have stayed in office?
Yes, well, you've had me on before, and I supported him all the way through, and I would have supported him if he had stayed in office. But he came to the view that the best thing for the country was for him to resign because he thought that it was more likely that someone else in the Labour Party was more likely to win for Labour at the next general election.
So this is all about 2029, or perhaps sooner. Do you expect that Andy Burnham will be a good Prime Minister, and if so, why or why not?
I think he'll be an excellent Prime Minister. I supported him in his campaign when he first stood to be leader of the Labour Party.
Did you?
And he's got a lot of experience as a minister and as mayor of Greater Manchester. And I think he'll be a good Prime Minister.
Why didn't he win in 2010 or 2015? Bearing in mind in 2010 he lost to Czech's notes Ed Miliband.
Because he got fewer votes.
I know he did. Why did he get fewer votes? Thank you for explaining elections to me again.
Yes, well, who knows? Because times change, and he's had more experience now.
Right. He's more credible now.
He's now great experience as mayor of Greater Manchester. A really big job, and he's done very, very well.
He's a very popular figure. There's no doubt at all, and it's the city is doing well. A lot of people are saying a lot of this Manchesterism and all the achievements of Burnham aren't actually quite what they seem, and they're not necessarily so much, partly down to Andy Burnham and his leadership, but not necessarily all of it. Do you think, though, that he is up for a job when he has been a cabinet minister previously, health secretary, crucially, he was chief secretary to the Treasury. He was in the Home Office, but obviously not Home Secretary, but also having run Manchester, that he's got the experience to deal with issues, massive big issues on the world stage, our foreign policy, defence policy and all these things. Because I've been around a long time. I've followed a lot of these people. I don't recall Andy Burnham having expressed any views on any of those things.
Well, I think he's got a lot more experience than Kemi Badenoch or Nigel Farage, your friend.
I think I'm friendly with quite a lot of them. I'm friendly with. I was at an event on Thursday night chatting very happily with members of the Labour cabinet. I don't choose my friends based on their politics. I'm old-fashioned like that. But you think he's got enough experience? What kind of Prime Minister will he be then? What will he? Because
as I say, he's got a lot more experience than Kemi Badenoch or Nigel Farage, and so I think he'll be an excellent Prime Minister, and you'll see what he chooses his cabinet. I think he's got a whole range of very good people to choose from.
I mean, there's a lot of talk. He wants to bring Louise Haigh back. I mean, someone who resigned because she'd basically defrauded a company by claiming her mobile phone had been stolen when it hadn't. I mean, is that someone fit for public office?
He hasn't made any appointments.
Should he appoint her or not?
It's not for me to suggest who he should appoint. I think there are a whole range of good people.
Who do you think?
Range of good people in the Parliamentary Labour Party, unlike the 6 strange people in the Reform, most of whom have defected from the Tory
If everything's going so well, why do you keep banging on about Reform?
Because you do.
I've literally not brought them up at all in this conversation.
You think they're wonderful.
Why do you think that?
Because
I'm very critical of a number of their policies. I think you'll find I have no issue with taking on anyone, whether I'm friends with them or not, or whether I agree with this or that policy. You take them on if I think they're doing something sensible, I'll tell them I agree with them. If I think they're doing something wrong or dumb, I'll tell them that as well. I have no party allegiance.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, but you do seem to be very critical of the Labour Party.
But that's not. But that's because you've not been a very good government, and because which is the view of most Labour voters who voted for you in 2024 as well.
Well, I think the result in the by-election in Makerfield proves otherwise.
Well, that was a vote. Let's face it, that was a vote to get Keir Starmer out. The polls are very clear.
Oh no, it was a vote for Labour and a vote for Andy Burnham.
And a vote to get Keir Starmer out. The reality is Keir Starmer's, on the latest poll, the most unpopular Prime Minister ever. I mean, most of the most unpopular Prime Ministers have been in the last few years. What you say Andy Burnham's got the experience. You say he's going to be a great Prime Minister. Doing what? What do you think he's going to do to be a great Prime Minister?
Well, there's a whole range of things that have to be done. Okay. Clearly, the expenditure has to be rebalanced. We have to continue to support Ukraine in its fight. We have to try and get help to get peace in the Middle East. We have to make some savings in the budget for welfare. We have to increase our defence expenditure. There are a whole range of things to be done, and none of which are easy. It's easy for you, Julia, to come on and say all the things that need to be done, but to balance it and to say, on the one hand, we need to spend more money, but we mustn't borrow anymore and we mustn't tax anymore.
What's the other option? Can anyone answer on a postcard? What's the other option? Spending less on other things. You've just outlined things that need to be done. You haven't told me what Andy Burnham would do. And I think the reason why you've not done that is because you don't know. And I think the reason why you don't know what he'd do is because he doesn't know yet either. Why does everyone think a man who wants to be Prime Minister but doesn't actually know what he wants to do when he's Prime Minister will make a great Prime Minister? So, OK, would it be OK if he told us at any point? What do you think he wants to do? OK, you've got a welfare issue, you've got defence. What's he going to choose? Tell me.
What do you mean? Of course you have to spend money on welfare, and of course you have to spend money on defence.
You talked about we need to save some money on the welfare budget and we need to spend more on defence. Those are the obvious trade-offs. Everyone's been talking about it. John Healey, everybody. Do you think he's going to do that? He hasn't said he will.
I support having bonds.
I didn't ask you what you want. I asked you what do you think. Everyone on the left, everyone keeps telling on the Labour Party, say he's going to be a great Prime Minister. What's he going to do that you think is going to make him a great Prime Minister? You haven't told me a single thing.
No, well, of course I haven't.
Because you don't know.
No.
You don't know, but... So why... This is the bizarre thing. You talked about people having a mandate. You talked about people standing for election. One of the reasons you do that is you have a contest. We find out what they want to do. OK. We have no idea what Andy Burnham wants to do, what he stands for, what he believes in, what his priorities will be. So why do you think he's going to be a great Prime Minister?
Because I know his background, I know his experience, I know him as a person, and I know that he'll be able to make the right kind of judgments, make the right kind of appointments, and I'm sure he'll be a great Prime Minister.
Do you not think that the Labour Party MPs, not even Labour Party members, let alone the voters generally, should have a clue what someone who is becoming Prime Minister wants to do when he becomes Prime Minister?
Yes, and no doubt there will be hustings, and he'll be able to answer these questions. You might even invite him onto your programme, and he might
Any day.
He might come on and answer your questions.
That would be nice. Well, we'll leave it there. Lord Fawkes, George Fawkes, Labour peer, former Minister under Tony Blair. Thank you. It's always genuinely, it is a pleasure. Thank you. Claire Pearsall.
So essentially we're being told that Andy Burnham's going to be great based on the fact that he wears a black T-shirt and there's a bit of a better vibe around him.
It's all about vibes, isn't it?
It is, and that seems to be what they're all
He might be great, but we have no idea. There's no way of knowing. Right, we're going to have to go to a quick break because I want to talk to Paul Mason, who's a Labour Party activist. He's up next. This is Talk.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk, the Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Let's get straight to my next guest, and I promise we will get to your calls. Plenty on the board. Your thoughts on the resignation of the Prime Minister. What do you make of him, and what do you make of Andy Burnham? He's definitely running. Haven't got any rivals so far. Could be a coronation as early as the 18th of July. Let's talk to Paul Mason. He's a journalist and Labour Party activist and joins us. Very good afternoon to you, Paul. Afternoon, can you hear me?
Good afternoon, Julia.
Oh, we've got you, lovely. Thank you so much for joining us. So, Paul, I mean, just first of all, what do you make of Keir Starmer's resignation? We just had Lord Foulkes saying, and lots of other guests, it was, it was done in good grace and it was the honourable thing to do. But is the reality he didn't have a choice? He had to go. The Cabinet were going to walk tomorrow.
I think that's right. It's very sad. And I'm sorry to see him go because he's someone that I worked with to try and get him to become leader. I was involved with the discussions with Keir Starmer in late 2019, early 2020, when he wanted to become leader. I thought he was the right person. I'm very sad to see him go. I don't think it's been working for a while, however, and I think the loss of John Healey in the resignation a few days ago was, for me, the last straw. I just think failing to fund defence, having said it's your number one priority, was not a credible position for the Prime Minister to take. And from then on, I think the writing was a little bit on the wall.
Well, indeed, it's interesting that. But and again, he was actually a very good leader of the opposition, wasn't he? And again, he turned around the Labour Party. There's no doubt at all about that after the Corbynista years and the problem with anti-Semitism. It's not entirely gone, I would like to say. Luckily, a lot of those people have just been ousted from the party. But when it comes
they're all in the Greens now, Julia.
This is very true. But when it comes to actually being Prime Minister, it turns out he wasn't going to deliver. You see him, he's incredibly unpopular. A lot of his unpopularity is not, as Lord Foulkes was just saying, down to people like me carping from the sidelines, but to even his own backbenchers. Lots and lots of rebellions over things like trying to cut the increase in welfare, over winter fuel payments and things like that. A lot of his problems in office were down to he didn't really have a plan. He had a wishy-washy change manifesto without a plan behind it. Did you think that there was a plan and that he did know what he was going to do, he was just keeping quiet? Or were you shocked to discover there literally wasn't a plan for office?
Oh, I think there was a plan for office, but there was no plan B for what do you do when it doesn't work. And what I mean by that is that they had the 5 missions, high growth, clean energy, safe streets, those things are all deliverable by a government. The problem is the headwinds, the economic stagnation, latterly the Trump situation internationally, all gets in the way of that. So the trade, the tariffs is what I'm referring to there. And what I don't think either Keir Starmer or Rachel Reeves ever quite had a plan B for how they were going to surmount the obstacles to growth once they hit those obstacles.
The events, dear boy, events that hit every government. But this is it. And again, but a lot of it is when you think about the things that were not, that made him not popular, they weren't in the manifesto. They weren't part of the plan. That rise of national insurance for employers, which basically killed off jobs, winter fuel payment cut, scrapping the 2-child benefit cap, very popular with Labour MPs, not popular even with Labour voters, the Chagos deal, digital ID, the family farm tax, scrapping jury trials. I mean, this stuff just came out of absolute nowhere.
Well, I think, for example, the jury trials thing is an attempt to deliver justice above all for women and girls who, for people who've suffered sexual violence and not getting to see the perpetrators tried.
Rubbish. Scrapping jury trials will not speed up trials. There's not a single shred of evidence for that.
Well, I think there is, but let's try and
isn't.
concentrate on your question, which is where did this all come from? For me, the thing that went wrong with Keir Starmer, above all, was his failure to grip the fact that the Treasury was not a growth department. It wasn't a department that had a growth strategy. It's something I've been very critical of, even as a Labour Party member and activist. But I think that then, for me, it's the Mandelson issue. It goes beyond any political or policy issue. In the Labour Party, we have this old saying: either we're for the workers or we're for the rich. And if we're for the workers, you don't spend your time fawning around rich people. And to appoint the man, before we go anywhere near the paedophilia issue, which is disgraceful, a man who basically had spent his life fawning on the rich, was, to me, a signal that Keir Starmer didn't get it.
Yeah, I mean, that was, I mean, it was such a poor judgment, which could have been something that was left in the past when, of course, the Epstein papers were actually published. But he made it his problem and then, of course, tried to cover a lot of it up. Let's talk to you about Andy Burnham. I know I hadn't realised before we went to that we had such short time with you, so I will get to. I hope do come on again this week, though. We've got have a bit longer. But in terms of Andy Burnham, we're told, he's on his way down to London. He's going to be sworn in as an MP. He's Mr. Charisma, successful mayor of Manchester. It looks like he's not going to have to even face a contest. He's going to have a coronation. Could be a Prime Minister by the 18th of July. Do you have a clue what he wants to do as Prime Minister?
I have, actually.
Do you mind telling us?
Well, I'll tell you what I think it is. I'm from the same town as Andy Burnham. I was brought up in the same religion as Andy Burnham. He'll be the first Catholic Prime Minister if he becomes Prime Minister. Yep. And I know, because I know the man and co-presented with him at the Glasgow COP conference, that he is profoundly driven by the idea of social justice. That's what it's going to drive him. And in Manchester, he followed an agenda which he called a resilience agenda, which put him ahead of the game, for example, on COVID. But Manchester's record on COVID was very good compared to the HM government's record, because Burnham had done the work around resilience. I think he will come with some of those ideas. If you want, the ideas that are animating his supporters are very much around turning the Treasury into a growth department, turning the Treasury into a department that targets investment where it's going to matter to working people. So I think a lot of that. But let's remember, he's got to slot into an existing government. He cannot come in and do a clean sweep and say, "Hey, we're starting afresh."
Because he doesn't have the mandate for that. But the thing is, big issues: spending on defence, cutting the welfare, net zero energy prices. Where does he stand on those three absolutely crucial issues?
He has stated his support for the 3% of GDP defence target, which is the thing that John Healey resigned over. So number one.
How's he going to deliver? I mean, you can support it. The Prime Minister supported it.
The Prime Minister didn't deliver it. It's pocket money in terms of the $3 trillion debt we already run. The welfare issue is the bigger issue, and so Andy Burnham is going to have to navigate between various wings of the Labour Party. And there is a wing, as you mentioned, Julia, and as the previous person mentioned, of the Labour Party in Parliament that just cannot bring itself to understand that the welfare bill is already capped. It's capped at a particular percentage of GDP, that we cannot go on breaking that cap. And therefore, some hard choices about getting people back into work who can work, and supporting those who can't. These are Labour choices. The one thing I agree with Rachel Reeves on, I've been a bit critical of her at Treasury, is that the Labour Party is a party of workers, and it has to deliver to them, particularly, as you say, as so much of their wages now have to be taken as tax. The number one group in society that we deliver to has to be people who get up in the morning, go to work. And campaigning in Makerfield, as I did for Andy Burnham, and I will support him as leader, every other house has a white van in front of it. I would hope that Labour's next budget would be a white van person's budget.
Just finally, who's your money on to be his Chancellor? It's going to be a crucial appointment.
I have no idea. I think it's got to be a big beast, who's someone who's already done something like that. And
is it Rachel Reeves?
I don't think. Look, Rachel Reeves is responsible from my point of view, for for Starmer's decision not to fully fund defence. And as a Labour person, I am, defence is my number one priority. I want to see defence fully funded. So if she has a change of mind, great. But I think that issue has to be sorted front and centre.
And now I've got to let you go. Paul Mason, great to have you on, journalist, Labour Party activist Paul Mason there. Interesting, Claire Pearsall, who's joining me obviously on the whole show, former Conservative government advisor, and I do follow Paul Mason on social media, and it's interesting, as a Labour person, he's through and through. Everybody was at the BBC, but he knows stuff. But in terms of being very, very pro spending defence, the thing we hear whenever we ask anybody about what Keir Burnham's going to do, this is what he thinks. He thinks there needs this, like social justice, brilliant. I mean, sorry, hands up who doesn't believe in social justice. I mean, hands up who wants an economy that's not growing. I mean, this is a little bit, mum and apple pie, isn't it?
It is, and suggesting that they're a party for the workers, but when you ask them what is a working person, they can't tell you that.
Well, not someone who employs people because they put their national insurance up.
Precisely, but then this is the party that can't tell us what a woman is either.
I want to know his thoughts on trans. I'm pretty sure he's been pretty dodgy on trans, on the trans stuff, which is, for me, it's
problematic.
Not problematic. I mean, it's a sanity test. It's an honesty test. At what point did Keir Starmer decide that some women didn't have penises? I mean, or does he still think that? Was he lying to us then? Is he lying to us now? Nothing changed. No. Biology did not change in that time. Listen, we just had to, before we go to break, a statement from Volodymyr Zelensky reacting to Keir Starmer's resignation. I mean, Zelensky, he's counting them in and he's counting them out, isn't he? He's had Boris Johnson, he's had Keir Starmer since the war was launched by Russia. Keir, thank you for your cooperation, your support and the joint decisions that have helped make our Europe and our protection of life stronger. United Kingdom has been, is and will remain among the world's leaders. Here in Ukraine, we deeply value Britain, and every meeting and every conversation we've had has always been filled with real substance. Thank you for always being in touch, always engaged and always striving to do what is needed and what will truly help. I wish the United Kingdom and all British people every success, as well as realisation of your national goals. We have confidence in Britain. Keir, you're always a welcome guest in Ukraine. I like that. I've got...
that's nice.
Yeah. I mean, he's always going to be worried, the next one.
Where's the support going to come from with the next one?
Absolutely. 12:34 is the time. We're going to get to your calls up next. Lots and lots of calls on the board. Let's get to as many as we can. Your reaction to the joy that is Keir Starmer's resignation. Look, if you want to call in and say you're really gutted he's gone, that's going to be an interesting conversation, but do start it. 0344 499 1000 is the number to get in touch. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk, the home of common sense for me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. You've been calling in your droves, 0344 499 1000, lots of text messages as well. I'm going to get to those in just 1 minute. I do just want to play you a clip of Nigel Farage. We've played you for the Prime Minister, got lots of tweets and things from Andy Burnham saying he's going to throw his hat in the ring, Andy West Streeting saying he's not non-committal from Al Khan, so I don't know whether he's still playing out behind the scenes. Realistically, we're looking at a coronation, for Andy Burnham as soon as the 18th of July. It's a Saturday. But Nigel Farage is demanding a general election. Here's what he had to say in a video he released a little bit earlier.
I've no idea whether there'll be a contest or a coronation. But what I do know is the British public have simply had enough of political parties chopping and changing their leaders at will. We vote for somebody in a general election to be our Prime Minister. We expect them to serve their term. And barring ill health or exceptional circumstances, what is going on here, frankly, is reminiscent of a banana republic that has totally devalued the very process of general elections and democracy. I demand, we at Reform demand, a general election.
It's all very well from the Prime Minister Nigel Farage of the Prime Minister, but realistically, you can't really demand anything, can you, Claire Pearsall?
No, he can't, and we don't need to have one. This is a parliamentary democracy, not an American presidential system.
No, the leader of the Labour Party, or the leader of the biggest party in the House of Commons, is the Prime Minister. Them's how it rolls. That's the total hypocrisy from Labour, because they were calling for the Tories to have a general election. The reality is, Reform would probably like an election, certainly a damn sight more than Tories and the Lib Dems. Greens probably want one sooner, but rather than later, because I think they've already hit their high mark. But I don't think Reform really want one. They're saying this when they think they can get away with it. Let's get to your calls. Stuart is on the line in London. A very good afternoon to you, Stuart. What do you want to say?
Good afternoon, Julia.
And it is a good afternoon, isn't it?
Yeah, I always notice, before I start, I watch you on TV and you're always immaculate.
Oh, darling, we try.
I think a lot of Labour female MPs could take a note from you.
Do you know, I've got to be honest with you, Claire Pearsall and I have this conversation quite often off air. I do think, I feel the same way, like teachers in school and things like that. I just think you should dress up, you're at work, you should look appropriate. You should look smart.
Without a doubt, I mean, most of them look like they've been fell off a horse, caught in the stirrups and dragged through a bush about 10 times.
Quite a lot of the men as well, to be honest with you, but particularly the women. Also, I've got very little time for grown-ups with the old blue hair and the pink hair and all that. I mean, oh, for goodness sake.
Look, it's not
Anyway,
Anyway, let's get to the point. Labour have, how many MPs have they got? Is it 400?
About the 400 mark. I've lost track of how many have lost the whip or haven't,
Well, 400, and all they could do, the best they could do, is come up with a bloke who achieved not a lot in Manchester. He wasn't even an MP, but getting the other one to resign with a promise of a peerage.
Yeah.
And they haven't got anyone good enough as an MP to take up.
It's quite telling, isn't it?
The sad state of the Labour Party. I mean, what has Starmer actually, Burnham actually achieved? He promised to build 10,000 social houses. He built about 300. He's done absolutely nothing. He's got the third worst homeless situation in Manchester, in the whole country. He's number 3. London, I think Birmingham, and then. He's achieved nothing. He's never achieved anything in his life. And suddenly this guy's a coronation.
Why do they think he's the great white hope then? What is it? I mean, other than the fact that he is personable, he is very, honestly, he's really likeable. He's nice to interview. Hasn't been on for a long time. Used to come on during lockdown an awful lot. He played a blinder then, but he does come across as normal. He speaks human, which is more than Keir Starmer does. But why do they think that he is this, the Messiah?
Well, what I want to ask him is certain questions. What are you going to do about the fingers? Are you going to leave the ECHR? Yes or no? If no, that means nothing is going to change. They will keep coming. Are you going to scrap this net zero nonsense? So we could, instead of buying the oil and gas from Norway that drills in the North Sea, we can build our own in the North Sea and pay half the price. There's a lot of questions I'll have to ask them, and like anything, they'll skirt all round it. They go around miles and back and never answer a question.
Yeah, and that is the trouble, isn't it? Because if you're just not going to get the answers, I just find it fascinating that someone could be, become our Prime Minister. We literally haven't got a clue what they're going to do. Stuart, thank you for that. Before I go to the next couple of calls, let's go to some messages. Boris, it could be. It could be. Boris says, good riddance to the worst UK Prime Minister ever. Genuinely, that could be him. Fred says, can Labour go too, please? Bye-bye, says Paul. Two-tier Keir has resigned, says Pete, to be replaced with Andy Crash and Burnham. Oh, loving your work, Pete. Sun headline writer job coming for you anytime soon. Ricardo says, thank goodness. Then again, Burnham won't be better. We need a general election. Get ready, Britain, says John. More mass illegal migrants under PM anti-Burnham. Scott says there should be a general election. Anti-Burnham hasn't even been an MP for years, yet he's getting thrusted into the top spot with no mandate. Typical banana politics. Again, every PM change should require a new election. What's going to change, says Eliza? Absolutely nothing. Nikki says, now we're in serious trouble. And anyone but Angela Rayner, says Theo. I did write a piece for The Sun a while ago. If we're going to have a disastrous Labour government, let's do it properly. Let's go full throttle. Get the whole thing, get the crash over and done with. Let's go, Angie Rayner. Ed Miliband as a Chancellor. Just get it over and done with.
Go out with a bang. That's what we need, isn't it?
Wow, and that would be a bang, wouldn't it? Ian is in Cheshire. Hello, Ian. What do you want to say?
Oh, hello, Julia. How are you?
Very well, sir. I'm very chirpy.
Yeah, so am I. Well, I put a bottle of Bollinger in the fridge over the weekend, hoping for this moment, and I've actually got it out about I got it out about an hour ago, and I opened it and I put it in a glass, and I drunk a little bit, and then I went, oh my God, Andy Burnham. I nearly coughed it all up.
Have all the bubbles gone flat?
The bubbles went flat, and I nearly lost about £15 worth in one glass. And I thought, Andy Burnham, luckily I live 20 miles from Andy Burnham's territory.
Yeah.
But this is a guy who spent £140 million of taxpayers' money to one developer in Manchester to turn it into a new look skyline.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. There's been a lot about this whole Manchesterism, and a lot of it is a load of big developers made a lot of money with some very expensive housing.
Yeah, absolutely. He gave 140 million of taxpayers' money on the premise that this developer would make about 2,000 or 3,000 affordable homes. Actually, 53 out of 10,000. Well, I'd say about 2,000 were actually made. There was a civil case going on at the moment. Andy Burnham was responsible for PFI in 2010 while health minister, and that's going to cost the country up to 2053 about £256 billion. So this guy has got a track record of disaster after disaster. The only ever thing he did for Manchester was free bus passes. Ask any 65-year-old, they love him. Everybody else hates him.
But by the way, they're not free. They're subsidised. They're paid for by tax. I want to have a law where you can't say things like free school meals. They're not free. They're subsidised by the taxpayer.
But people think they're free.
Yeah.
They think it's free.
They've just fluttered into the air somehow.
This guy, they call him Mr. Flip-Flop up here. And that's what you'll get, Mr. Flip-Flop, Andy Burnham, that's his nickname.
Do you have a clue about any policy that he wants to actually bring in?
Absolutely. There's no policy in Manchester. He said he would, as Stuart said previously, he said he'd get rid of all the homeless on the streets of Manchester. Piccadilly Gardens is the crack den of the whole world. You have a walk round there. Well, you don't want to walk round there, but if you did and saw it, it's a disgrace. The places, I live in Cheshire, luckily, thank God my lucky stars. But when you go into Manchester, as soon as you cross the border of any part of Cheshire, you see Manchester. It's a tip. It's a tip.
Can I just say,
we knew you in China.
We knew you lived in Cheshire because you'd opened a bottle of Bollinger on a Monday. It was a bit of a giveaway, Ian. Ian, thank you. Listen, save a glass for me. I'm on my way, my love. I'll finish at 1. Stephen is in Manchester, again, where, of course, Andy Burnham has been mayor for the last quite a few years now. Stephen, what do you make of Andy Burnham? Are you a fan?
I don't see him as a solution because the whole political establishment is so dissociated from what this country needs. I don't see Sir Keir Starmer as a particular problem. He's a symptom. And things will go on. We are, 15 seconds to midnight in this country, demographically, culturally, and beyond anything financially. It's a nightmare encroaching. And there's a failure to represent the will of the British people. They're not going to do it. Andy Burnham's not going to do it. It's going to be more expenditure, ignoring the will of the real native indigenous British again and again and again. In the immortal words of Enoch Powell, I look to the future and I am filled with forebodings.
So you said he's just a symptom. Keir Starmer, maybe Andy Burnham as well. They're just same old, but load of politicians who are refusing to grasp the actual real problems we've got.
Yeah, they will not tackle them. there are none so blind as those who will not see. When you go around areas in Manchester, or many other great cities now, they've lost their English perspective. They don't feel like England anymore, culturally.
I think a lot of people feel that, absolutely, Stephen. And again, and people think, you can't say that. Yeah, you can, and it's what people are seeing in their real lives. Stephen, thank you very much indeed. Well, he's not optimistic for the future. Mark is on the line. He's also in Manchester. Mark, what do you want to say?
I just want to say that, to me, it's like handing a bucket over with a load of holes in it. It's not going to keep the water in it. It's the seventh time in 10 years. I think it's more a reflection of a systemic failure than it is an actual failure of the Prime Ministers. I just don't think they can do enough for the country.
Is there a problem with voters, though? I think we've got a load of Prime Ministers who promise stuff which they have no intention of delivering, and then we go, right, you're out. But there's also a problem with voters thinking they can do a load of stuff without us having to pay for it.
Yeah, well, I think I've rung in before and said the most popular politicians at the moment are Mr. and Mrs. Change. Yeah. And, it's just about that. I mean, people are just fed up. They want change, so they keep voting. And then someone comes in, they don't deliver within a period of a year or two, or even months. And they're out.
Yeah,
I
think people could have.
The system more than anything else.
I think people could have coped with him not delivering. If you're in the right if you're literally going in the right direction, we'd go fair enough. But again, I don't see any evidence of that whatsoever. Mark, thank you very much. Interesting to have two sort of quite negative calls there, Claire.
It is, isn't it? And I think that shows you just how split everybody is on this issue. And people don't like what they're doing, the Labour Party.
Absolutely. Going to take a quick break. More of your calls coming up. This is Talk.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is indeed Talk, the Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Well, in all the excitement, I've forgotten to tell you more about our fantastic competition. The 2026 World Cup has, of course, already kicked off. And here at Talk, we are celebrating in style. That's why we're giving you the chance to boost your bank balance with a massive, and it really is, £26,000 in tax-free cash. For a summer you won't forget, here's how to enter.
For your chance to win, visit talk.tv/win or text TALK to 8338 by 6 p.m. on the 20th of July 2026. Texts cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or send your name and number by post to Comp 1, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP. To arrive by midnight on the 23rd of July 2026. 18 plus, UK residents only. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 8338 now. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talk.tv/win.
Well, very good luck with that. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Claire Pearcell is still here, former Conservative Government Advisor. It's fascinating the calls so far. We're going to get to a couple more before the top of the hour. I know lots of people wanting to have their say and celebrate. We've already had, it was Ian with the Bollinger, wasn't it? Yeah.
Good taste.
That's some very, very expensive champagne, that Ian. And people celebrate. There is a real feeling, and I can see it in some of the text messages we got as well, people saying, out of the frying pan and into the fire.
But I think that people are more concerned is that they really don't know what Andy Burnham stands for. And I've spent the whole weekend having a look to see what I can find.
I know, me too.
Sadly, I'm sure that I do other things
to get
at
out
weekend.
More. We should drink more Bollinger.
We need
with Ian up in
more
Cheshire.
And it just sort of looks a little bit sort of a mishmash of things.
All things to all men.
All things to all men, and that's never going to stick. You're never going to be able to
keep that up. As it was with Keir Starmer, we were not at all sure whether or not Keir Starmer was going to be the person, when he got into office, whether he was going to be the person who he sort of claimed to be when he stood in 2024 general election, a bit blairy, or whether he was going to be the person who stood in the 2020 leadership election campaign for the Labour Party when he was very full-on socialist.
Do you think that the funniest thing that's come out of all is this? Were the reports that Keir Starmer was spending the weekend at Chequers absolutely furious.
Yeah.
Can you imagine him ever being absolutely furious about anything?
I just thought, again, everything he said, and everyone was saying it was very great, said with grace when he resigned. It wasn't. It was so ridiculously pompous.
Yeah.
He's just, and everyone's saying the thing that he does everything in the interests of the country.
No,
really?
He doesn't.
I mean, tell me one thing he's done in the interests of this country, other than resign. Yeah. And he's done that because he was going to be richly humiliated tomorrow when most of his cabinet were going to resign. Let's go to the calls. 0344 499 1000 is the number for you to get in touch. Michael has done that. He's in Luton. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Julia.
Hello.
Yeah. Oh, dear. He's gone.
Wait, why are you saying, oh, dear?
Well, let's hope that Angela Rayner does what she did when Rishi Sunak was made Prime Minister and demand there's a general election.
Yeah, yes. Well, of course they will. I mean, they're total hypocrites on that.
Yeah, and I'm in trouble. My wife has locked me in the cupboard because she's walking round with a great big grin on her face, and it's frightening.
I've been whooping with joy. But, I mean, this is the thing. Look, everyone's being a hypocrite. Nigel Farage has been very clear, calling for a general election. The Tories haven't really, because they're not ready for one. They're still in the doldrums when it comes to the polls. Reform don't really want one. Do you think there should be one?
Yes, I do. I mean, we've got to get this country straightened out. And what he should have done, Starmer, was he should have demanded or taken the general election, and all those that were stabbing in the back, he'd have taken them down with him.
I mean, that would have been the fun move.
Bit of credit.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Be careful what you wish for, and we could end up with, a sort of a Labour, Lib Dem, Green coalition at this rate. Who knows? Thank you very much indeed for that, Michael. Ooh, trouble in Luton there. Robert's in Hertfordshire. Hello, Robert.
Hi, I watched Keir Starmer's speech. And
sorry about that.
Yeah, do you know what? I realised how deluded he is, and I can say it now. The man's mentally ill. I can't believe he listed, instead of being humble and saying, look, I think if he would have said the job was too big for me, or whatever,
oh my God, totally. Look, I just wasn't up to it, and I'm sorry. That would have been amazing.
The thing is, as well, everybody's going mad about. I'll tell you who I'm annoyed about after this general election, this by-election, and that's Nigel Farage.
Oh yeah.
I'll tell you for why. He didn't go for it full-blooded, and they haven't got anything to beat. I mean, Reform, the present Labour Party, they haven't got anything to beat whatsoever. They should be smashing it.
Well, Reform, hold on a second. Reform through the kitchen sink, as did Labour at this. Well, yeah, Labour Party, not Keir Starmer, in Makerfield. Yeah, Reform through the kitchen sink at it.
Was that the quip, the candidate being a plumber?
No, but fair enough. No, but they did. They really did. They really, and I was being told at one point, unofficially, it's close, and it wasn't close at all. But the thing is, there'll be plenty of people who, if Reform's whole thing, their shtick is, vote Reform, get Starmer out, and there was a guy who was basically saying, wink, wink, vote for me, I'll be the next Prime Minister, i.e. vote Labour, get Starmer out. He was going to do it rather quicker than Reform has any chance of doing it. So I think this was simply an anti-Starmer vote. I don't see it as anything else.
Well, that's true, but the thing is, what people need to realise who voted for Burnham, it's the same bus, different driver. And it's the same bus, different driver. In actual fact, it will probably be worse because you nationalise everything, and that will just be, you know, an absolute disaster.
Well,
look, so socialism doesn't work.
No. I mean, it's a small point worth making. All these people saying they're socialists but pragmatists. If you were a pragmatist, you wouldn't be a socialist. It's been proven. Robert, you know, of course, they'll always say, it's not been tried properly yet. Doesn't matter where it is. It's not been tried properly yet. Robert in Hertfordshire, thank you. Claire Pearsall, I mean, it is fascinating. And you mentioned, you know, nationalisation, and that's going to be one of the things, you know, nationalise water companies, nationalise. Perfectly good argument, like these public utilities. Well, I mean, they are monopolies. You know, I live in Thames Water. I can't choose to have, you know, Yorkshire Water, so they have monopolies. There's an argument, but would they be any better run? Would our bills go down?
No, they wouldn't, and it costs an inordinate amount of money. Just to nationalise the water industry alone is about 100 billion.
Yeah, I mean,
where's that coming from?
There isn't money for any of it.
No.
Do you think it's going to be a fun next few weeks, a fun next few years? Where are you on this?
A fun next few weeks,
yes. Is it for the bants? Is it all about the banter now?
It kind of is. And from my position, it's not my party that's doing it. This is someone else, so I'm feeling a little bit more relaxed over it.
You did have to go through all of the...
Done that.
I mean, how many did you lot went through? Loads.
Too many.
Too many, that's for sure. Delighted today. Ian Collins is here.
You can have Yorkshire Water. You just have to supply your own pipe.
Yes, all the way down.
That's the only thing. Yeah,
all the way down.
A bit laborious, you know, tacking it onto the M6 Central Reservation.
I think it might be quite a lot. I wouldn't get planning.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get planning. There'd be some bats that were put out, and that would have to be
only one story in town, of course. Toy Story 5 is out. Can't wait. Who's your favourite Toy Story character?
He's got kids.
Are you going for Forky, or are you going for, you know, I don't know, one of the obvious?
Do you know what? I kind of blocked that. Mine's so old now. I don't have to. You don't have to
worry about that old shizzle, do you?
It was fun. I love Toy Story. No, come on. Well, this is a little bit of a Hollywood movie.
Were you in tears, Jude? I mean, I heard your beginning today sounding very, frankly, horrendously cynical, and but I agree with every word.
Because
he brought it on himself. I mean, that's the point, isn't it? I mean, the honeymoon